Welcome to the Inbetween podcast. I'm your host, Joe and I'm joined here by Tony Tones at RT. How are you, Tony?
I'm doing very well. Summer is here. Hay fever season is
Hay fever
kind of shit.
season.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hate to hear that.
that's how
Right.
my summer always
This is
starts.
not E3 Part 2. Again, we're going to be using Games Recap 2023 to look over all the greatest trailers. Highly recommend this website. If you don't want to watch like 4 hours of OTK members talking about merch like I did, um, I did watch a lot of these live. I think there was only a couple I maybe missed. But we're just going to go straight in. No news this week other than the E3, not E3 trailers. And there probably won't be enough time to talk about anything else. So all the news that's come out that's not related to the trailers will just be pushed back. I've got a couple of stuff that I've found out after the fact of the trailers coming out that I've kind of tried to add additional detail to stuff I'm interested in. But let's just
Okay,
start with the Summer Jeff Fest,
I'm
and
going straight in.
I'm gonna say something I don't think I'd be saying on this. I'm interested in this Ubisoft game. We have the Prince of
What?
Persia: The Lost Crown. It is a
Well,
Metroidvania hack and slash
yeah.
game coming
It's a
from.
Prince of Persia game. Well, I guess
It's
other people are
okay.
3D, right?
So I've never played Prince of Persia,
Right. I played like
but
one.
Prince of Persia is more of like a 3D platformer, right? Or
Yeah. I think back
but
in the day,
this.
like Assassin's Creed's movement got compared to Prince of Persia, so
Right. But immediately watching this,
this is 2D.
the first thought in my brain of the game that was close to this was immediately, without knowing it was a Metroidvania, I listened and I went, oh, Metroid Dread. Because I just played Metroid Dread, and my brain immediately goes, it's got like the dashing, the platforming, the
Yeah.
moving around. I'm like, man, this is looking very Metroid. Um,
Yep.
and it's also got that thing where, because in Metroid Dread, it does this amazing thing where it's all 2.5D, and then you go into action, and the camera switches into 3D, and it's really fucking cool. And this game's doing that exact thing as well. It's not the same like
Okay.
theme of Dread where it's like very horror based, but it has that like element of moving the camera for like action shots, which I thought was really cool. But
Yeah,
this
it's good to
this
see.
genuinely looks really cool.
Yeah.
Like I made a list of highlights. Maybe at the end of this, you can just add a timestamp, and I'll just quickly go through all the highlights if
Oh,
people want to just look at the stuff I thought was really interesting.
yeah,
Spoiler alert:
absolutely.
Starfield's in there. Um, so I said Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. It's a Metroidvania game, and it's so really some of my favorite games from Ubisoft are the Rayman Origins. I could talk about Rayman Origins for ages. This is made by the Rayman Origins guys. So you know these guys have platformer chops. Those Rayman games are fucking amazing. Like Rayman Origins and Rayman Legends are fucking sick. Really well made games. Um, and apparently it's designed for Switch first. So
Okay.
you can tell the visuals are like pulled back a little bit, but it still looks
Yeah.
great. So like it's not really like a game that you need to be like particularly graphically demanding anyway. Like
No, I think
again,
yeah, because like, what they've done with it is like yeah, it's like they've gone for good enough texture, but like yeah, but yeah, I think it's well put together. Like it's a good looking package from what I can see here.
yeah,
I guess
looking
we have to wait
really
for the
cool.
full game, I suppose, but it's always the way.
And then next up we have there was a Mortal Kombat 1 thing, but I'm not interested in fighting games, so I'm just gonna skip
Yeah.
that. Path of Exile 2 got a new trailer. Interesting to come out now, just as Diablo 4's launch. Like it's been out
Mm.
for like 2 or 3 weeks now. Diablo 4.
Okay.
Um, but PoE 2 is looking quite good. I think it like graphically it's looking quite good.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've tried like to play the intro of Path of Exile twice, and I always turn it off because I get too confused. Um,
Right. You don't want to.
but I don't know. I feel like with PoE 2 they're not going to try and make it more accessible. It's just going to be doubling down on what's worked, I guess, like trying to
Yeah.
increase graphics and fidelity and just try and make work what worked well in the first game.
I think that makes sense. Like, I think there's one thing like it's not like I feel like it's got a big enough audience. They don't need to try and open up. Maybe it'd be easier to like get into maybe, but yeah, I hope that they don't for the fans of it. They don't like
So
simplify
we
it.
still need to find out more about that because we don't know the release date.
Yeah,
For such, so I should just point out we're gonna kind of be going from presentation to presentation. I have some notes for each of them, and for Summer Jeff Fest, I wrote down Nicolas Cage. They just brought Nicolas Cage onto the stage, and they're like, "Yo, Nicolas Cage is being added to Dead by Daylight." So we saw the teaser for this ages ago, and I was like, "Please be a killer! Please be a killer!" Apparently, it's going to be a survivor. I remember watching them on the DF. Digital Foundry did a bunch of DF Directs, and they went through every single conference, pretty much. And they were saying like how Nicolas Cage doesn't look like Nicolas Cage in this game because the graphics are so like outdated, sort of thing. Like it's
yeah. There's like knockoff Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, but if you've seen any of the like not merch, what's the word? Promotional characters or characters based on real people, they always look like nothing like the people they're supposed to be based on. Like Laurie Strode and DVD looks nothing like what's her name? The woman from Halloween. Like they're unrecognizable most of the time. Like the monsters are pretty easy to get because they don't have that many like unique features, but people are like a big problem.
Yeah. When did the game come out? Is that it's how old is it?
Dead by Daylight. I want to say 2016.
Yeah. Okay, so it's pretty.
So it's what 6 or 7 years old at this point. Yeah, 2016. 7 years old. Because they did a graphics update like the last year or the year before. They have tried to bring it up, but I think they would have to do like a Dead by Daylight 2 if they wanted to actually bring it up, sort of thing. Like the base level. We've got Witchfire next, which is coming out September 20th. I don't know if you know this, Tony, but September is kind of stacked for video game releases.
Yeah, I did see.
So this is a game from the creators of Painkiller and The Vanishing Ethan Carter. It looked like, I think we've seen this before, right? We saw this last E3. I thought it looked pretty interesting.
We saw a lot more here than we did last time, though.
I just still think this looks really interesting. I mean, if there's not much to say based on the trailer, then we'll just move on quickly. I tried not to talk about too much cinematic stuff where you couldn't really tell what was going on, but I thought the combat on this looked pretty cool.
Yeah. And if it ties into like the idea of like Vanishing Ethan Carter, like having that sort of with the combat, I think that's pretty cool. Hopefully that works out well together.
This is the next up is Remnant 2. So we got a sequel to the Remnant game, which was like a co-op, like Souls-like games, but with guns, sort of thing.
Dark Souls with guns.
Dark Souls with guns, yeah, that's how I would describe it. Don't worry, we'll have more IGN memes later when we get to the Xbox one.
Yeah, I think the first game I was interested in, but then I think it came out as like, okay, it seemed like a little bit like some flaws. I was like, okay, this seems.
But they gave away the game free, like
on
Epic, I think, and then also maybe on Steam. I don't know. But it's been it's been in a lot of bundles on Steam, and it's been free on Epic.
Yeah, I don't think it's sold well. But this actually looks more interesting to me. I don't know if they've solved some of the fundamental problems that I can't quite remember what they were now. It's been a while. But yeah, it looks interesting again. So I'd be willing to check out and see if they've fixed the problems and in co-op. It's co-op as well, right? So
speaking of Souls-like games, they announced Lies of P. I don't think I have this highlighted, but
Pinocchio.
Yeah, the Pinocchio Souls game that's not made by FromSoft, and they immediately announced it. They're like, "There's a demo out," and the demo is really cool. I believe it's Unreal Engine 5, and it has a shader compilation step at the beginning. It runs really well. I was watching our friend Jesse playing it yesterday, and it looks really, really good. So it's also the demo's still up for the demo festival. the Steam Demo Festival. So I've played a couple of these games already in the Demo Festival, but it only came out yesterday, so I haven't played them all.
Did you feel like a real boy though?
I didn't play it, but I thought it looked pretty cool. I mean, it was like 20 gigabytes, so I was just downloading like small stuff first.
Yeah, that seems quite big, but I guess yeah.
Next up, we have like this is a highlight for me. I was not expecting this. We've got a new Sonic game, but it's like a
Sonic Heroes.
It's not like Sonic Mania where it's like a remake of an old Sonic game. It's not like the new Sonic Forces or Sonic Frontiers where they just go, "What the fuck is the Sonic? Let's do something new."
It's
sort of like
Generations.
It's sort of more like a new Sonic game with the ideas of like classic Sonic games, but in like a 3D format.
Right.
Because Generations is like it's a little bit. Because this is closer in gameplay to Sonic Mania than it is to Generations, I would say.
Okay.
But it's closer in graphics to the 2D Sonic sections, I would say, in Sonic Generations.
Yeah, to me, like, looks wise, it looks Generations. But yeah, I can mechanically know what we're seeing on screen. Yeah, I would say that it's more actually learning from, like, actually innovating and actually learning from the older Sonic games instead of we need to completely reinvent the wheel and make Sonic Heroes.
But as a Sonic enjoyer, I gotta say this looks pretty good. I was just
yeah, it looks good.
So I was playing Diablo 4 recently, and I just finished the game. Like I got to the credits. I mean, finishing that game is like an interesting idea because you can get to like level 100, but that's like level 50 is where you like kind of finish the game, that you get the credits. But then there's like, but you can keep going and fight Uber Lilith. But to get to Uber Lilith, you have to do like hundreds of hours of grinding. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm done. I'll go do something else. So I was like, what am I going to play next? And I was like, I'm going to play Sonic Frontiers. This game looks really cool. But I wanted to mod it. So I installed the Hedgehog. It's Hedgehog modding. Because it's like, I think it's just called Hedgehog Modder or Launcher. Essentially, they've built like a modding tool that works for all the different Sonic games. So it's got support for Generations, Sonic Colors, Sonic Frontiers, and there's some cool mods I installed. Because I immediately was like, because the game's capped to 60 FPS. I think the physics are tied to 60 FPS. But I capped it to 120. I wanted to try that out. And then I installed the mod that reduces pop-in. Because you know that the Frontiers has really aggressive pop-in for no reason.
Yeah.
So I wanted to try that out. And else? Oh, there's like a quick start version. So you can just make it so instead of having to go through all the logos and stuff, you can actually just launch it directly into the game, sort of thing.
What? You don't want to sit much with the logos and?
Well, there's two modes. You can basically skip the logos, or you can make it so you skip the logos and you skip the menu. It just takes you straight into the world and you're playing. It's like seamless. It takes like 2 seconds at a SSD.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna try Frontiers, but I'm looking forward to Sonic Superstars. It looks really cool. They released. We have gameplay actually. I'll show the gameplay. We got some Japanese gameplay from IGN. Japanese IGN, I guess. IGN Japan.
Is that IJN then?
IJN, yeah. What is the G? G stands for games, right?
Yeah. Isn't it?
So it'd be is it International Japan Network then, or I know what the I
stands for. I never actually knew what the I. I just like it's like I knew it was like
Internet game. I don't know.
Isn't it? But isn't GN like gaming network? Or is it not? Network?
I think gaming network. Yeah.
So what the Japanese network?
What the fuck is a Sonic and what the fuck is an IGN really? But here we are, and the gameplay, like seeing it itself, it looks really really cool. It looks really really fun.
Yeah.
It's got that nice blend of speed, but with like precise platforming, which I think is a good mix. Whereas like
Yeah.
3D Sonic games are mostly just running for no reason. It's
Oh
just
no,
like
then he's stopping up to do
boost.
some stupid punching, and then it's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was I saying? I always say like, when are we going to get that remaster of Sonic Heroes? That's what we're all waiting for.
No, I want Sonic Heroes too. I don't know what you mean. I don't want it.
I mean,
I
if you
want it just a straight out
go to
sequel.
they released the Switch screenshots of this game. Go to the Google Doc and look at the Switch screenshots. Holy shit, are they looking rough? Look
Ooh.
at the Switch version of this game. Holy, does it look low
Oh my
resolution?
god! What do you call that? Like the fish? What is that? What do you call that? Is there a name for that?
I don't know. There's just famously like Nintendo never has aliasing, so there's no
Oh, is that the
anti-aliasing.
problem?
There's like everything is just flat, chunky textures, like completely decolored. It looks fucking
Yeah, that's.
awful.
It reminds me of
All
like
the
some like old
jaggies.
point and click. Some of like the green colors I'm seeing. It's very odd. Why is the green so off?
So we
Yeah, that's
have
weird. It's
oh,
unfortunate.
next up we have John Carpenter's Toxic Commando. So apparently Saber and Focus are working with John Carpenter to make another zombie shooter game. Like initially I was like,
Another zombie
do
game.
we need another Back for Blood? But you know,
Yeah. I'm willing to give it a chance because like they seem to. This was this in game or in engine footage? Not. It wasn't. I can't believe it. That was this just pre-rendered
there's a CG intro and then there's
CG
gameplay
intro.
footage. It says on the timestamps. But I was like, how is John Carpenter involved in this? Like, is he just
Yeah.
doing the music or is he done some game development? I don't know.
I assume I'd assume it wouldn't be development per se, but maybe like art direction or theme direction or something along those lines. But yeah, I don't know.
Don't get me
Who
wrong,
knows?
like the Halloween and the thing and you
Yeah,
know, fucking all that shit is fucking cool. Um,
I am hoping like there's like the gameplay is very much on like just like taking out huge amounts of zombies. I mean, we saw that like on the truck sections. So I don't know. I'm kind of interested in this, but I guess you can show a zombie game in a quite good light until you actually then play it. So, but I'm hoping this is good. Like
yeah.
I'm not done with zombie games yet. If you do an interesting concept, I will look at a zombie game.
Well, coming next year, Toxic Commando. I like how Jeff was like, "Yeah, we've got Pokemon with guns," and then I was like, "Oh, this is exactly what this is, Pokemon with guns." Immediately, I was like, "Nintendo lawsuit incoming. What's going on?" Like Gyarados in the fucking water,
Well, I saw Eevee's tail right there.
they just pull out the Glizzy, and I'm like, "Holy, what the fuck is this, bro?"
I just found this trailer so funny.
Like Summer Jazz Fest was all over the fucking place. Like
Yeah.
one point there was like, "Oh, here's a game," and then it was like, "And here is a trailer for a video game TV series," and then there's like, "And
Yeah.
here's an ad," and it's just like, "Here's
Here's
Nicolas
some
Cage on
devs
the
talk.
stage for like
Yeah.
5 minutes."
Here's some
It's
devs
just like
talking for a bit on stage.
Summer Jeff Fest is always very commercial compared to the other ones, where
Yes.
it's all about getting those like.
I will say it's always very varied and you see a lot though. So I can't entirely knock
He
it.
always wants to get like the nod from the traditional media. Like I remember the
Oh
Game
yeah.
Awards, he had like, what was it, Al
Yeah.
Pacino came on stage and he was like, Al
Oh yeah.
Pacino's here to talk about. He was
And
given
he's
an
like
award to
he could
the
barely
voice
read
actor
the
for
auto
God of
cue.
War. Yeah. We got another trailer for the Lord of the Rings Return to Moria.
I mean Lord of the Ring, don't you?
Lord of Ring, yeah, Lord of Ring Golem sequel, guys. Here we go, dude. Lord of the Rings is just like it's getting the Warhammer treatment at the moment when it comes to
Yeah.
like, let's give the license to anyone. Oh, when you
I don't know
tarnish the
what
brand like that, people
I
start distrusting the games.
yeah.
It's like Rings of Power. It's fucking awful. Golem's like looking like the worst game of the year, which is like
Yeah.
actually a fucking achievement to be the worst game of this year.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just still think
This
the
is
idea of
interesting.
mining survival as the dwarfs in Moria still sounds really fun. Like I love Deep Rock Galactic, Rock and Stone Brother, but
Yeah.
I always think there should be more crafting with in those mines.
Yeah.
And there is more Minecraft here, so
yeah, I had to see how it's executed, but yeah, like in concept, but yeah, you're right. Like if it's like a perfect fit, right? But we'll have to see. But yeah, it looks interesting. I'd like to see more. I guess.
Oh, I kept chanting the entire thing for Fortnite Chapter 4, and we finally got it because that was the big thing they announced. He was like, "And guys, Fortnite Chapter 4 Season 3 will be coming," and I'm like,
it was in the
okay.
title on Twitch, so
yeah. Star Trek Infinite, Tony. This is coming. Wait, this is out now.
Yeah, it's out now. Yeah.
So immediately I saw this and I was like, "Oh, it's another Star Trek mobile game," but we've seen like extended gameplay from this. It's a paradox. It's essentially, it's been my paradox, right? It's essentially Stellaris Star Trek. It's essentially what it is.
A lot. Like if you look at the star bases around stars, it looks very much like Stellaris. You look at the UI of like ship handling and like the UI of government stuff. Like it's very Stellaris based, and the galaxy map is especially very Stellaris based.
But we found it because we saw some like
with this.
Yeah, because we found it kind of interesting because there's Klingons, Cardassians, Romulans, and the Federation. Yeah,
and I guess the Borg must be a crisis then, like an AI crisis. I suppose
you were like, this looks so much like Stellaris. Why didn't they just make this a Stellaris DLC?
Well, okay. You gave your answer to it, and it's basically money. You can get a sequel from it, but I would still love, right? I'm just like the species packs in Stellaris, like just do one for each of these 4 factions of Stellaris skins for ships and things. Like everyone would love that so much. But I don't know how Paramount is with licensing that sort of like I get that they would rather have like their name in the game like as a separate entity instead of a DLC in another game. Oh, the planets are very Stellaris as well. Like
you watch the gameplay for this game, and as someone who's played Stellaris for like at least a couple of hours, I'm like, oh, it's Stellaris, but it's Star Trek.
There's some differences for sure. That's looks like a skill tree or like a research tree is definitely different.
I do love seeing all the ships like the Cardassian ships and the birds of prey, and it does look really good.
That looks so good to me.
The fucking the Terek Nor, yeah, like
oh my god,
it's making me
go. I saw Voyager there for a second.
It's making me go. I need to play Stellaris, but then I'm going. I don't like Stellaris, but I love Star Trek.
You need to play Stellaris co-op mode, Joe.
Ah, there it is. Will it be coming to Star Trek Infinite? That's the question.
I don't know. It'd be great. Who knows? Hopefully, fingers crossed. If it sells well, I think this is good. Okay, I'm gonna say it now. I think it's gonna sell well, but it's gonna be a shorter experience. I'll say that.
So I think the Telltale game that's not a Telltale game, Star Trek game, just came out.
Oh yeah.
Star Trek Resurgence. It's Dramatic Labs, and they're like ex-employees of Telltale, I believe is how it works.
The ones that got fired and get their final paycheck.
But I like that they're doing like TNG sort of timelines for these sort of things again, whereas. A lot of the stuff they would like, no, let's do Discovery timeline stuff or Kelvin timeline or whatever.
Yeah,
and it's just like I don't care about that shit. Like, not
the lore building that they did in TNG or the TNG era, let's say, is way better.
Yeah,
and the assets and the look of the ships that you in games, and I just do that. It's much better.
Then we got a trailer for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Not before. Okay, so before he went
2, basically.
I wanted to point out before he said, and we've got an exciting new trailer for Final Fantasy, and everyone was like, "Yay!" And he was like, you can get a promotion on your phone for this mobile game, and I was like, boo, what the fuck? But then they actually showed the new trailer for the Final Fantasy game.
There's Final Fantasy 7 Part 2, effectively.
Yeah, it's Rebirth. So the first one was called Resurgence, I believe, and then this one's called Rebirth.
Yeah.
And
but okay, best game like Tomb Raider, no one knows which one was fucking which, so I'm just gonna say it now. This is 2.
Tony, need I say more? 2 discs. Need I say more?
Oh,
do you remember they kept saying that? 2 discs.
Like, what year is this?
Well, I think that was like, there was meant to be like a nostalgia thing. Like, I think Final Fantasy games used to come with multiple discs.
Yeah.
So they were like, guys, 2 discs. Because like game
it probably is over 100 gigs, but
game installs have been getting like so big. Because I believe the way it works is Xbox still uses 50 gigabyte discs, but PlayStation uses 100 gigabyte discs, which have been possible for a while.
Yeah.
But I think Xbox still use the 50 ones because they're still trying to support the Xbox One X or the old one, like the smart delivery or whatever.
I also believe the way to get the 100 gig disc, Sony has the patent to. So there is that.
Yeah, this looks cool. I never played a Final Fantasy game, but
I own it. I haven't played it yet.
Do you have it on Steam?
Yes.
And my hope is that the PC port that's coming out in a couple of years is going to be better than the PC port they put out for the first game, because that had some real like optimization issues.
It's still a bit iffy from what I understand, even to this day on PC. So, but there's mods to help it now, I think. So.
This is interesting because I believe that the story has changed from the original game, and it's going down a slightly different path.
Yeah, they've made there's some big changes, some minor changes, and it's like overall the same direction, I suppose, but with like different twists. Kind of like the Resident Evil remakes, right? Where it's like basically the same, but like there's some big changes which kind of changes how everything works. So
yeah.
Our friend Joseph was talking about the people in the suits. I think he used a racist slur to talk about them. I think.
What? What are you talking about?
The people in the suits have a name that's very similar to like a nationality name.
I don't know. I've never played a Final Fantasy game, so I don't know anything about the story. But yeah, I think because it's weird because Final Fantasy 16 is like just about to come out, right? It comes out in like Is it now? Final Fantasy 6. It come out like today or tomorrow? Or something?
I thought it was July, or was it not?
No, it's coming out in like 2 days from today. It comes out on the 22nd. So, and from what I've seen of like 16 looks really interesting to me.
Yeah,
like I said,
it looks more like a Devil May Cry instead of
yeah. Well, it's like they made Devil May Cry, right? The Final Fantasy guys, so it's the same guy, isn't it?
I can't remember. I can't remember which team is this what now anymore. I can't remember. Maybe, possibly, on 2 discs.
On 2 discs. I think Yoshi P's working on Final Fantasy 16 as well.
Yeah, he seems to be in a lot of the Final Fantasy pies, or like at least like managing it and things. So he's kind of. I assume he's trustworthy. Yeah.
Well, I know Yoshi P because he's a fucking legend from Final Fantasy 14, the MMO.
Yeah.
But yeah, seems really cool. Anyway, that was Summer Jeff Fest. Let's move on from Summer Jeff Fest to Devolver. Did you watch Devolver's like full show?
No, I've not watched the full show yet. I normally I don't know how this happens, but I always go back and like quickly watch the just the individual trailers and then go back to the show and then skip the trailers. I'm not done. I
was explaining to you that the whole thing was like they were doing this thing called Volvi, where Volvi's they made like a fake mascot platformer from the like 80s, 90s, and they were like, he's back! And they went like out and gave people like fake merch with like Volvi on it, like, and everyone was like, I remember Volvi. I can't believe he's coming back.
The fake nostalgia is good.
But yeah, it was a pretty good show. I was explaining to one of my friends who'd never seen a Devolver show before. I was like, it's gonna be borderline experimental.
There's gonna be blood.
I said there's gonna be a lot of blood, and there was a lot of blood.
And the reaction was like, wait, what? What do you mean there's gonna be lots of blood? It's like, yeah, don't worry about it.
There was no Nina Struthers this year, but it seems like they're going down a different path.
Right.
They did like a 15 minutes like prepare for Volvi thing, where they basically showed a bunch of trailers for the first 15 minutes of they just showed a bunch of legitimate trailers, and then they went into the show. And then they had this new Volvitron robot thing, and then they had him create trailers, and then they showed new trailers through that as well. So they sort of split up the half artsy thing, half like actual just trailers sort of thing. So it was a weird way to do it, but that's kind of how they split it up.
Yeah.
The first one
the other ways before is like you'd have the artsy thing throughout the whole thing, and you have legit trailers in there. I don't know which is better.
But the problem was, I remember one year they did it, and they were doing like a lot of fake stuff. And I was like, I can't tell if these trailers are real or not. Like, they're supposed to be fake trailers or real trailers. It was like confusing the hell out of me. But what's real system? I don't even remember this one.
Yeah, it seems like
I don't even remember.
Almost like a point and click sort of thing.
I don't think I'd let's have a look at the next one.
Yeah, I didn't really know what to think of that. I mean, I'll look into it. The art is fine.
Let's have a look at Karmazoo. I thought this one. I think we've seen Karmazoo before, but I thought this one looked like pretty interesting. It was like you had a bunch of creatures, and then you used all their different powers to solve puzzles. I thought it was pretty interesting. I mean, with Devolver, you just never know what you're going to get really most of the time. They're just like, let's make shit.
A Christmas tree.
Yeah.
I have many questions.
They talked about some stuff like we've already seen before, like Sludge Life 2, Bleak Sword, which I played the demo on. A game called Shadows of the Damned is getting remastered, which I don't know anything about. I think it's like an old
I'm
game.
Guessing that, but people must know it considering the way they shot this. So
they're remastering this game, and I believe it's from the guy who did Lollipop Chainsaw and Killer is Dead is another game he did. But they also used this trailer to announce that they were going to make their own not E3 show as well, which I did not watch because I didn't even know what the game was at first, but it looked pretty cool, and the fact that they're remastering it was pretty cool. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. Baby Steps. This one's another what the fuck is this? Immediately. Do you remember our good friend Bennett Foddy?
I do, yeah.
So Bennett Foddy, big fan of his work. He made the game QWOP, where you had to make an athlete run by using the letters QWOP.
And there were hundreds of clones like it. I didn't quite understand.
It really pissed me off. They kept listing his games. So I was like, yeah, he made Getting Over It. He made APAL. He did another one here, but they didn't say QWOP, and I was like, this is the most QWOP game he's made in a long time. Why would you not mention QWOP?
From the experience he learned from creating QWOP comes... Yeah, I don't really understand that. It's just like 3D QWOP, right?
Yeah. Seeing recently on Twitch...
Okay.
People love watching streamers play these sort of games.
I'm going to make a bold statement here. I think this might be the second Strand-like game.
Yeah, there it is. Because recently, I don't know if you saw, one of the top-selling games on Steam right now is called Getting Up, or Going Up. And it's essentially just, it looks like a bunch of default asset packs. Right. And you just literally climb up a bunch of objects, random objects, like a fucking giant chessboard, a giant bus.
Is it randomly generated, or they just...
No, it's not randomly generated, but but that's really popular because it's like when you fall, you go all the way to the bottom and you have to start again. They also recognised Bennett Foddy in the trailer when he knocked over that pile of rocks, and it was Bennett Foddy talking. And I was like, oh yeah, I know who that is.
Yeah.
But this could be pretty fun, and I think this is the sort of it's coming out next year. This is going to be really popular on Twitch for like a month, and it'll probably sell well because of that.
Well, yeah.
Streamers and people who watch streams love these kind of games. So
Twitch bait.
Yeah, Twitch bait game. It's like a Jump King or Getting Over It or one of the other Rage bait games. We got an announcement for Human Fall Flat 2. This one kind of came out of left field. I was like, oh, I didn't know we needed a Human Fall Flat 2 because the first game already had like such extensive workshop support. It was if you don't know what Human Fall Flat is, it's like imagine co-op Gang Beasts where you're essentially trying to platform through a level with jelly physics. And I don't really know the appeal of making a second game.
More main campaign stuff, surely? Or like more mechanics?
But they kept making like official campaigns or like integrating people's workshop campaigns as official campaigns.
Yeah, but I assume one of the big things why you would want to do a sequel, other than just like making money, obviously. But like one thing is like you're changing out the engine to add more stuff, and so I would assume there's more mechanics to form remaps. What I would assume, but we didn't really see any. Like it's basically just an announcement of the title screen. So we didn't really see anything. Well, I don't know unless you saw something like in there that is different. Because I've not played the first game.
No, it looked pretty much like Human Fall Flat.
Right.
I thought Devolver was okay. There was a couple of things I was like, that's kind of interesting, but there wasn't really anything in Devolver this year that I was super into.
No.
I think
not that many, a bit weak.
Generally this year there wasn't like I felt like most of the conferences I watched I was like, there's not really that much good stuff that I'm really into this year. Like it felt pretty underwhelming this year. Like honestly, some of the best stuff I saw was like Sonic and Prince of Persia. Like that was some of the best stuff I saw.
It's a couple of the smaller things we didn't see much. Yeah, I do think there's less overall, but I'm hoping that means there won't be just lots of shit being pooped out at the other end, like we have been over the last few years. Maybe that's a good sign.
Yeah, Devolver. Volvy has a giant hand for gaming. You'll come to love him when you watch the Devolver video and you see his evolution.
Right.
On to Future of Play Direct. This is a pretty legit show. I think they had like the voice actor for Peter Parker from the new Spider-Man game doing the show with somebody else. I thought this show was alright.
A disembodied voice did the show.
Well, he was on stage as well as a person, obviously.
Okay.
But I thought this show was pretty good because they just showed trailer. There wasn't much fluff in between, which I quite liked. First one, here we have Yasuke, a Lost Descendant. If I immediately click on a trailer and I forget immediately what it was or why I liked it, please forgive me while I watch it because I've watched like 500 trailers over the course of E3 and sometimes the same trailer 5 times. So this is what I'll say. Once you get into the indie conferences like the Future Games or the OTK or anything like that, indie devs want to get their games out there to as many audiences as possible.
Yeah,
so there's some trailers I have seen like literally the same trailer 4 times, and I was almost getting like trailer fatigue from watching the same trailer. Like, I understand you want to show your trailer to more people, but when I see it 4 times, I'm like, I don't care about this game anymore. Like, even if I was interested in the game, watching it so much, I was like, fuck this game. Like, it kind of had the opposite effect to me. Someone who watches all of the functions, but I'm sure not everybody does that. They sort of just watch the big ones.
No. But I do think if you're going to do that where you put on every conference, maybe have like a slightly different version for each conference. I'm not saying go like completely different, just small changes.
That was a action-adventure third-person. So that was a action-adventure hack and slash. We had Cavern of Dreams, an adventure platformer. Oh, this was one of the Nintendo 64 throwbacks. We've been seeing a lot of like these small indie 64 throwbacks. Usually they cost like a couple of quid and they're just like super short, but they like boil down the essence of like, oh, I want to play a Nintendo 64 platform for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Here's a couple of quid for entry, and then you just play it, and it's like, oh, that was pretty fun. Like, I like this sort of business model, especially when you have stuff like Vampire Survivors that is like, hey, a couple of quid for entry, and you can just
it's priced right.
play this game. People are getting like hundreds of hours of content out of it. You know, you don't always have to release like a $70 game in order to, with 1,000 hours of padding doing nothing.
You mean like Lord of the Ring, Gollum?
How long was that game? I actually don't know.
I believe it was 8 hours, 6 hours.
When I think of those games,
no one finished it.
I'm thinking of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because that game was like, we have our games over like 100 hours long, and I'm like, yeah, 100 hours of repetitive shit.
Gollum was like a $70 game for some reason. It's like, it's like it's a short experience, even if it wasn't buggy, and it's like, why are you charging so much?
Bombing to Graffiti Paradise. It seems like a graffiti game. That's what I will say about it.
Okay.
Okay. I like weird. No, there's a subgenre of graffiti games now, Tony. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, but what's the gameplay? Why?
Painting.
Okay.
Same reason
I want to pass for 2.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
For 2, not a 1, is kind of where I'm at.
It's similar to Pass for 2. It's just like the joy of painting. It's like
yeah, but the second one I feel like there's joy of painting with like reason.
Splatoon, Chicory, Sludge Life 2. I just played a demo called Taglines, which is like a weird graffiti game. Like there's an appeal to like just graffiti and this idea of graffiti art. Like it's coming back.
I think if it's graffiti, okay, if it's another like open world game where like you did other stuff and graffiti was just a part of it, I'm all for it. But I feel like a game just for me personally, a game just for graffiti and there's no mechanic behind the graffiti. I'm not in for. I want a reason to graffiti.
Yep. Angelic Error. I thought this looked really interesting. It really reminded me of those like classic Final Fantasy games with like this weird action, like.
But it's not
like heavy combat.
It's real time.
Yeah. I was
it's like real time old Final Fantasy. That's a weird.
It looks. It's like I like this because I like watching the indie things because like 90% of it's like garbage I don't care about. But then I see something like this and I'm like, I've never seen anything like this. This is interesting.
Yeah,
like it's actually doing something different.
Tried. Yeah, and then you get to see.
Next will be Star Trucker, Tony. Star Trucker. It's Euro Truck Simulator in space. If you're like, I like Euro Truck Simulator, but what if it was like you're an intergalactic trucker in space? Finally, you have your answer.
Elite Dangerous.
No, there's no trucks in Elite Dangerous.
Oh, you want actual trucks? Is this Hot Rod Optimus Prime? What's going on?
Truck equals Optimus Prime.
Yeah. Okay, so they're literal trucks. Okay.
Yeah, literal trucks.
Multiple trailers equivalent. Okay, interesting.
This is a real like Sips Dad game where you just drive around trucks in space.
I think this is good. I don't want to knock it, but I feel like it is in the same sort of run as Elite Dangerous. This is good as well. It looks more space fantasy, I suppose, in a weird way.
Next up we have speaking of games, I'm like, I haven't seen anything like this. This is amazing. On Guard. I saw this and I was like, wait a minute, this looks really interesting. So it's sort of like a fighting, swashbuckling, like sword combat game where you can use the environment against your enemies. It sort of has that like fast, fluid combat with good movement. It's sort of like it seems like an arena fighter almost, where you're in like a small space, and then you can and then there's like platforming sections as well. It's like good combat, good movement. This looks really interesting. Like I feel like we haven't seen anything like this in a long time. Like, there's nothing I can think of that's like the closest thing I can think of that's like this would be Assassin's Creed, but even Assassin's Creed is kind of nothing like this in a lot of
Yeah,
ways.
it takes the idea of like the fighting and pairing with the counter Assassin's Creed is like making a proper, make it just its own thing that's way better.
But there's a demo for this for Games Fest. I haven't played it yet, but it looks really, really good. I've heard people play the demo and say it's really good. So interested to try that one.
Yeah, it is really good.
Next up, we have Enchanted Portals, a platformer coming out this year. And immediately I saw it, so I was like, oh, it's Cuphead. Have you seen this trailer? I was like, oh,
No,
it's literally Cuphead. I was like, it's taken this long for somebody else to go, let's do Cuphead again.
maybe it just takes a long time to make Cuphead.
I guess if it's like all hand drawn art, right? But yeah, I mean, it's so close to Cuphead that I was like, are they getting sued? Like, what's going on? But it is interesting to see like another game because I love Cuphead and I played the DLC as well recently, and I think they're fantastic games. So it's nice to see somebody else take that art style idea, entire soul, and try and do something new with it.
I want to see like how different they go from it because but I'm glad it exists. I have to see if there is any more
So we have
differences from Cuphead.
Odinfall, which is an action roguelite. I thought this looked really cool. It was like a barbarian like action game, but with guns. I put a couple of roguelike games in here. I have mixed feelings on roguelike games like these days, where I'm like, a lot of the time I just can't be bothered to get into them.
Well, there's no fun. Just like what do you gain from it? So
it just feels like
it's tricky.
just a lot of grinding. Like the last game to make me go, oh man, I love this game, and it's a roguelike, was Hades. Hades got me like really into it, but Hades is like a roguelike game for people who don't like roguelites, I feel like. In a lot of ways.
It has a story and things like to complete, right?
Yeah. There's always progression in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought this game looked really, really cool. Next up, we have Punch Club 2 Fast Forward. I remember Punch Club. It was like a tiny build, like one of their first published games, or like one of the video ones where you had to like manage a fighting gym, right? It was like a tycoon sort of game, right?
Yeah, I remember, yes.
And it seems like they've gone kind of balls to the wall with that idea for the second game now. They've kind of added a bunch of weird stuff to it, like you can choose like individual moves, and there's this weird like underground combat ring, and then there's like
that's cool.
Yeah, stuff. I don't know. I heard really positive things about the first game, but I've never played it myself. I mean, I'm not really into those simulation management sort of stuff. So
it's always been on my radar, but I never played it. This to me, like even though the short, like where it's like quickly going through like everything, is like this seems like a little bit more substantial. So I'd be more interested in checking this one out.
Oh, I missed one. C Smash VRS. We have a VR game. We have a sports VR game. I think this is it just for PSVR? I think it was a PSVR title, but we have a tennis-based VR game. Not the first tennis-based VR game. We've had like 11 table tennis before, but it's like I was like, we have ping pong. When are we going to get tennis in VR? But then it's like sort of goes balls to the walls as well. This game, I'm like, there's something interesting about this. It's not just like breakout tennis. There seems to be like tennis and breakout, but then it's I don't know. It seems interesting. I mean, I think it's PSVR exclusive. It seems like, but it'd be interesting to see if it came to the PC as well. Then we have Ruffian the Riverside Adventure Exploration Puzzle. I thought this one looks quite good. It's that. It reminds me of that game Demon Turf, where it's like 2D sprites in a 3D world. Which I like that sort of art style, especially when it's done in like a platformer setting, like bright colors, it's like happy looking stuff. I found that for platforming. It didn't work too well in Demon Turf, in my opinion. But this is more of like a puzzle game where you have to like change the environment with magical spells. So we'll see how that turns out for this one. But this one looks pretty interesting. Then we had Cookie Cutter, a Metroidvania. Immediately I was like, do we need another Metroidvania roguelite or game or anything in those sort of games? But I looked at the animations and the combat and I thought it looked really, really good. Like based on how good the fluidity of the moves and stuff looked.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, this one's probably worth checking out because yeah, the attacks look one really cool and two they look really fluid. Like it looks like it plays well.
Are you an android? What's going on?
I think the idea is it's called Cookie Cutter. I think the idea is you're a robot, but you're not fitting into like a cookie cutter mold. You're going to be your own robot, sort of thing.
You're an angsty teenager robot. Yeah.
Yes,
okay. Got it.
but you have really cool moves, and you also like choke the fuck out of guys and rip them in half.
yeah. No, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, you say like the animations are very
Good artwork,
unique,
very good.
But, yeah, it's very interesting. Like this boss is really cool. Okay.
I thought this looked really, really cool. This was
This
one
the
where I was like,
weapon.
I watched like the first 5
weapon
seconds, and I was like, and then I watched it. I was like, oh, actually, this is really good.
Yeah, I definitely want to check this out. This is really good.
Finally, for Future Game Show, we have The Precinct. It's just a sandbox action game. This is sort of like GTA, like the original GTA sort of games, but the police sort of thing. Like, not LA
Okay.
Noire, but you know, like the original 2D, like the GTA 2 and 1 sort of games. Like top
It's
down.
top. Yeah. Is
Um,
it like an actual 3D? Those weren't 3D rendered world, right? Because like trying to save computing power or
but it's
storage space, or
like
whatever. But this is.
it seems like it's sort of a GTA style, but from the perspective of a police officer. Actually, seems
It
like
seems
really
a
really
bit.
cool.
It seems to be like has like pacing of like slow everyday stuff like LA Noire and then like fast. Like yeah, I'm getting LA Noire and GTA vibes. Is that? It's
Yeah,
kind of weird.
that look really really good.
I have to see. So does it cover? Okay. Okay. I just see how like the how varied the missions are and things. I think that's like if those aren't varied enough, I think that could kill it. But it is good though.
Let's move on to the OTK um, conference expo. Start with Gangs of Sherwood. I think this was Unreal Engine 5 as well. I think they announced this to be Unreal
Oh, was
Engine
it?
5. But I thought this looked really cool. It was like a co-op archery game, but you had like abilities
Yeah.
and stuff. I thought this looked really cool. Speaking of OTK, there's no reason this conference needed to be 4 hours long. Holy
I
shit.
can't believe it was 4
Um,
hours long.
I watched the whole thing. Like, I'm a big fan of the OTK. Like, I've talked about this in the past. I like OTK and its members. I'm a big fan of people like Asmongold and Esfand and
yeah.
all those people, Soda Poppin and all those people. But it was 4 hours long, and it wasn't just trailer, 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 trailer. It was like trailer. Check out our merch. Trailer. I don't know if you know, but OTK owns a business called Starforge Builds, where
Yeah.
essentially, do
The
you remember
dick,
the whole? Do you remember
the
the old
dick
art?
penis building piece.
Oh yeah, as Linus calls it.
Yeah.
It's a hammer, dude. It's a hammer.
It's a
Do you remember the Artesian build drama where
yes.
the CEO was making fun of like a creator for not having enough followers to get a PC? And
Well,
then
yeah, that
basically,
was like there was a competition. It's like they don't have enough followers. Like, no, we're retracting you from the competition. It's like, what the hell?
but essentially, they went bankrupt.
Yeah,
OTK basically, because they had some good
they
PC
bought the
builders
east
inside of
side.
them. They bought
Yeah, they
like
bought the east side PC building.
yeah, and then they made Starforge. So
Yeah,
they have their own like PC building company. They have their own merch, but they were talking about it like literally every other trailer was just like, guys, we have merch, guys. It's like we get it, guys. Like you're making this conference 4 hours long with all this fucking shit. Like it's I get that you want to advertise your merch and your PC building, but like
yeah.
give it a
There's
break.
yeah, there's you can only get it for so much. You can't keep doing it.
With Alien,
Because there is such against advertising fatigue.
with Alien Hominid Invasion coming out this year from the creators of Castle Crashers. It looked like a really fun little Alien game.
Like a
Like
fun
co-op sort of thing.
party game, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't like I've played through Castle Crashers with some friends, and I wasn't a huge fan of it. But it was like
Yeah.
it seems like a lot of people like Castle Crashers. I'll be interested to see what they like change up for this game. Like the game's okay, Castle Crashers, but I wasn't just personally wasn't a huge fan of it. But I like these like we don't really see co-op games anymore. It's like games that if games are either single player or they are massively multiplayer online games. Like co-op games just don't seem to exist. So it's always interesting to see like a actual co-op game again.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that we have seen like quite like at least a handful of like co-op games in this, at least not E3s. So I'm actually glad they're coming back.
Boaty Biteland Overclocked. I immediately saw this and I was like, oh, this looks like Ratchet and Clank, which is like my immediate reaction to it. Some stuff I also want to say about OTK. They could have cut it up. So, like, they would. I like that they had. This was like part of the platformer section. So they had like, oh, here's all the platformer games. Here's all the puzzle games. Here's all the action games.
So they put them all together.
But after every single game, they had like a panel section where they would have the OTK members react to the panel.
Right.
And it would take up so much time just them talking about every individual game when there were so many games in this conference. And then there was also members there that just seemed like they didn't want to be there. Like there were people like straight up like Mizkif, for example, like he was just taking the piss and he was just like it was kind of frustrating to watch when they were like they had no idea what they were talking about and were just laughing about it, and I was like, yeah, I get like it's not a professional conference, but like you're sort of just wasting everybody's time.
Yeah, you need some level, especially because you're still So you can advertise your own products and services. It seems a bit weird.
Next up we have Ugly, which I think is a very good-looking game. Was the joke they said several times. But yeah, this is like a little puzzle game that's got like really awesome like hand-drawn sort of art that looks really cool. It sort of reminds me of like Braid as well in that sort of way, where you have to like use these mechanics to solve puzzles, which I thought looked really cool. Also, they would have like dev interviews with people on the show, and they would not show gameplay while they would while the dev was talking about the game, so you weren't sure which game they were talking about. Which was like not a good thing, which was like a criticism from like Code Carnage game, which I agreed with. Cut this conference down. There's too many indie games for you to be talking about every single one.
Why didn't they just like if they split it up like different sections, like with like lots of games? Why didn't they just like wait, like watch all the trailers, then at the end of it, like talk about the highlights for that section instead of like every single individual game?
Well, they basically they talked about the different categories. So they would go platformers, and then they would talk about every single game of the platformers. And then they go on to puzzle, and then they talk about everything. But
they need to show on the reaction section.
Yeah, because normally at these things they always announce like I think because they announced like Starforge before.
Okay, my question is how much of the time was padded out with reactions, and how much was of adverts for their stuff?
It seemed like there was equal amounts of trailers to reactions to ads. It felt like there was like 33% for each, which I don't think so. I think it should be like 70%. I want 70% trailers, 20% reactions, 10% ads. But obviously, I understand that it's a business.
But it's still something you want to be about 50% less time.
Because they announced, I don't know if they have it on here, but They announced that they're making their own video game publishing company called Mad Mushroom.
Okay.
Because they did their I think it was last year they announced they were going to be working with that ex World of Warcraft developer to help make that MMO game. But now it
So
seems
they were
like
running out of money, weren't they?
they're going the Donkey route, because Donkey's the only person I can think of recently who has gone from creator to publisher, because he did the Big Mode publisher announcement with the new Animal World game.
Right, yeah.
And it seems like OTK is going down this path again to publish.
Yeah. As long as they do their strengths and like don't become real, that should be real publishers. They don't become like our current set of publishers. I'll say that. I think it should be like more passion.
Well, I think it's like I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah,
because they have a big team of people, and you'd be like, hey, because the whole idea of the OTK Games Expo is like, we're streamers, we love playing games. Let's make like it. Okay, so big highlight of OTK was Soda Poppin. Soda Poppin legitimately plays games. He has a show called Shit So Sunday. He plays everything, and he had like, out of everyone who's giving notes, everyone's like, yeah, game looks cool. He was like, I love this part of the game. I love this specifically. Like, he was actually watched the trailers and was actually critiquing and analytical and saying what he thought was cool.
This is
so like,
yeah.
Having him be able to look at indie games and go, this is really cool. Let's help give you funding and help get this game out there. That's a cool idea, right? But the idea is that it would be so organic to have basically a streamer sees a game, goes, oh, that's cool. And then they go, well, we'll help you publish it, give you money towards like making the game. We'll take a cut of it, and then when the game comes out, we can play the game on stream, and then lots of people want to play the game. Like that.
I think as long as it doesn't, I can see it becoming like very corporatized in the future. So I'm hoping it's always like, we're someone at least on the team are interested in it, and it's not just.
Oh, do you remember that Slope Crashers game I did in the last demo fest, where it was like animals going down a hill on snowboards? They did like They did like a live playthrough of that game on stage, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, why are they playing this live on stage? King of the Hat. We've got like a party platformer. I like these like little party puzzle games. I thought this one looked really, really cool though. I believe it is coming. Oh, it's come out already, sort of thing. So you can play it now. But I think they did a early access sort of launch.
Was that $20?
20 smackarooskies. It's on sale at the moment. Apparently, it's on £12. One thing I wanted to point about this thing though was it has a friends pass. So you can have one person buy it, and then other people download the friends pass, like It Takes Two or A Way Out, where you just need one person to host it, and then your friends can join you. Which I was like, that's a really good business model, because a lot of time with these party games, the hard part is getting your friends to also purchase the game. Like, you don't want to be the one person to purchase the game, because then if your friends don't purchase it, you can't do anything with it unless you have like a LAN PC, and then you then need to get all your friends to purchase it, but you're not going to get all your friends to purchase it unless you've purchased it, and then they go, why would we get it? You haven't got it yet.
Yeah.
So, it can be hard with these party games. Next up we have RoboBeat, another rhythm shooter. I still don't know how I feel about rhythm shooters. So there was that very popular game, BPM. Then there was Metal Hellsinger, like the metal FPS game. I played the demo of, and I still wasn't sure how I felt about those games. Like, I don't know. I can't tell if I don't like that specific game, or I don't like the music, or I don't like shooting things to a rhythm.
Yeah, because the Hell one, I really like the music and I like the theme, but I just found that I'm just really bad at. It almost felt like if you didn't do it to the beat, like it was like no point. Whereas like I feel like I need a softer failure state.
No, like I love Hotline Miami is a game that is designed to use the soundtrack to put you into like a trance state to play the game. I love like
Yeah.
Angerfoot being Devolver Digital's publishing that as well. That's another like like beat game that gets you into like a trance just to like shoot people. I like
Yeah.
having a beat to the game, but it's like I don't know if I want my FPS gameplay to be interrupted by
Well,
not perfectly hitting notes.
Well, I think okay. My view on this is always like you should have a game where like anytime you like say it's a shoot like if we're talking about shooting rhythm games, anytime you shoot someone in the head, like you should be rewarded for shooting in the head or a weak point of some kind, right? But then if you want it to be a rhythm thing, I don't think it should be you only do damage when you do it to the rhythm. It should be you do normal damage, but then you do even more extra damage if you do it to the beat as well. And then like, the closer you are to the beat, the more damage you do. So it's kind of like you could start out bad with the rhythm, and then you could get better. But that never seems to be the way it feels. At least the games I've done is like BPM. It's just
Exoside next, which was I was like, yeah, finally, boomer inspired shooters. Here we go. Like I thought the idea of having like guns with like extra guns on the side was really cool, and I believe you
like the
can.
darkness.
They were saying like you can have it so you can have like Apogee as well, which is really cool to see coming back. Because I just played the Rise of Triad Ludicrous Edition from Apogee, New Blood, and Night Dive all coming together to remaster that boomer shooter.
Is there a
Um,
rival company called Perigee?
Apogee, what?
Perigee.
Apogee?
Apogee is the highest point of an orbit around Earth.
Oh, okay. I don't know that. No,
No,
Apogee is like the old school like publisher of like loads of old boomer shooters.
right.
I think they do like the 2D Duke Nukem games because they just come back. Like they've done Turbo Overkill recently. They did the original like Rise of Triad. They did the original Duke Nukem games like before. Um, I think Gearbox did the acquired the rights from 3D Realms did the 3D stuff. I don't know if you know this because I didn't know this until like that long ago that Duke Nukem was like a platformer game before it was like a boomer shooter.
Wait, what? Okay.
Yeah,
No. What?
I thought this looks really really cool.
Was there
My
sliding in that game, by the way? I thought I saw some sliding and some movement based
flip and
stuff.
sliding. Yeah, this sliding.
Okay.
My Little
Just
Universe. I thought this looked pretty fun. It was like a little building survival sort of
oh
game,
yeah. This
sort of
is
like
cool.
Mario Galaxy sort of style
I was gonna make
planets.
a My Little Big Planet joke, but yeah, no, okay. So make your own
Mine
Mario Galaxy.
resources, cut down trees,
That's
play
cool.
Civ 5.
Build your Civ 5.
I
No,
thought
yeah,
that looked
that's some cool stuff. Though. I'm
good.
curious to how what the progression is and what that keeps you going. But yeah,
Well, it
that's really
says
cool.
sandbox simulation, so I guess it's either
But is it gonna do it like Valheim? Is it gonna do it like
yeah, I
Don't
don't know.
Starve? Is it gonna do it like
Well, it doesn't say
Minecraft?
survive text, so I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, so like it depends. Like, there's multiple ways you can do it now, and so I'm very curious like what the progression and like the incentive
Next
is.
up we
But it
have
is
Demon
interesting.
Spore, another roguelike game, but I thought this one looked really cool. It reminded me of um like the beginning of Half-Life 1 where you just have these scientists and there's just or like Carry On. You have
Yeah,
like this
another
big
digital published game.
a
Yeah,
big
carrying is
like
really cool.
blood like it reminds me of like John Carpenter's The Thing as well, where it's like
But you're playing as a scientist in this,
yeah.
right? But instead you'll find like an infection or like a growth,
Well, there was a
human growth.
scientist in Half-Life 1 who fought a bunch of weird alien creatures, so that's where I
Yeah,
got
but this
the
looks more carrion growthy than
yeah.
Half-Life 1 in my opinion.
But I
I
just
do
thought
like
like
this
the
growth.
the art style and like the stylized like
Yeah.
CCTV sort of camera thing was
Yeah,
was really
yeah.
cool.
It's like on like an old like CRT monitor. It looks like that's kind of cool. Yeah.
First Dwarf we had, an action RPG survival exploration game. It's another mech survival crafting game. I think there's another one of these where you build
Yeah,
farms.
there was, yeah.
Guys, we got another one. We got another mech survival crafting game.
Mech farming game. This is good as well though. I'm curious to how this one goes as well. Like, what's the again? It's one of the things like what's the incentive structure, but everything else looks cool. So like,
And
it has
then
like
the final
looks
game
good.
from OTK was Unrooted, which is essentially Mizkif's platforming game. We talked about this last year, maybe the year before, where he loves games like Getting Over It and Jump King, like his big. So it's basically like one of those games where
Yeah.
you have to try and climb to the top, and then if you fall down, and it's about
Are you an
it's
acorn?
a streamer game. I think you're some sort of like pod or plant or something.
Okay.
I genuinely thought like the art on this looked pretty good, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
gameplay seems like it's pretty decent. So I think this one looks pretty cool.
This is like a punishing platformer. Can I coin that as a term?
Punishing platform. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah. And then next up we have probably, in my opinion, the best conference from E3, the Xbox
Yeah, that's
conference.
what I thought it was pretty good.
So I made a bingo card for this one based on things. So it was half things I wanted to see and half things I thought that we would see.
Right. That's not how you play bingo, by the way.
Well, that's just how I make my bingo.
Okay. I'm just saying, if you go to bingo night, you just put on stuff you want to see.
Well,
You gotta
I
be
was
tactical. You
taking
want to win.
my hopium and I was like, I want to
Yeah.
see this stuff.
I'm so glad to say, like, I was really having to see more Avowed stuff this year, and I got it, and I'm very happy.
Yeah. So one of the things I
Very,
really
very
wanted to
happy.
see was Avowed because I was
Yeah.
like, let's. We just had that CGI tease of Obsidian's like Skyrim sort of game,
Yeah,
and
we didn't see anything
I really
before.
wanted to see stuff. So I'll just go quickly. Stuff I put down. I wanted to see that we didn't see. Quake. I wanted to see more Quake. I want a Doom 2016 style Quake.
Yeah.
Spiritual successing game or a Quake 2 remaster from Night Dive, like the Quake 1 remaster. Would be really cool to see. I wanted to see Outer Worlds 2 as well from Obsidian. Obviously, Starfield was the big thing at the show. Maybe they didn't want those two to clash with each other.
That's sure.
We've been hearing so many rumors about Wolfenstein as well. We haven't seen anything from Wolfenstein. There apparently was going to be like another Wolfenstein game or like a boom. We didn't get to see any boom shooters, Tony. That's what I'm complaining about.
Yeah.
I
I
want
would
to
like to
see
see more Wolfenstein things. Like,
my
it's not hard compared
my
to the one.
hopiums were on here, Tony. Fallout New Vegas remaster, a new
Yeah.
a new Spyro game because
Uh-huh.
I was writing on here about like we've got
You thought Minecraft?
Activision
Oh,
Blizzard is under Microsoft now. Technically, quotation marks, not really, but they're acting as if it is.
we have to wait until the end of June because I think the courts in America recently just like said you have to wait until the end of June before you even can start merging. So.
I wrote down cloud-based Kojima product because I remember they walked on the stage said we're making a cloud-based game with Kojima. They walked away and they never spoke about it again. So I thought maybe we'd get more information on that.
Well, he's gone to Apple now, so I can only assume it's going to be a cloud-based VR game.
They talked about a Perfect Dark reboot ages ago. We've heard nothing about that. I wanted to know more about the Indiana Jones game because that's being made by Machine Gun Games, who make the Wolfenstein games. So that sounds like it could be really good. Yeah, let's talk about what we did see. We saw Hellblade 2, we saw Cyberpunk, we saw Fable, we saw
I'm surprised
Avowed.
of seeing more Fable. Like that Fable one was kind of wild for me.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, I don't know what you think.
And I wrote down obligatory Elder Scrolls Online video, even though no one plays that game.
Well, can I just genuinely, I really like Elder Scrolls Online, and I think the new I don't know. I'm gonna say no.
Tony, we also got the obligatory Fallout 76 update. Even
That's
though no
fine,
one
but I
plays
want
that
to
game.
talk. I think more people play ESO than 76. Um, I think the expansions and the story stuff that they sell is a great way to fund and do DLCs like for an MMO.
Yeah.
However, they also do loot boxes, microtransactions, gem stores, events, and like battle
Horse
pass sort of
armor.
things. They do, yeah. So they do every single. They do literally. If you think of like a money making scheme, ESO has it, and it's really dumb because they just need to sell story DLCs and expansions because they're really fucking good. And I really need to go back and play it. They need to fix some of their story missions, but like genuinely, I don't think I've ever talked like I want to briefly just mention it. I really have got other stuff to watch, but the start of like the starting like two like areas like I played in the ESO was way more fun as a Skyrim game or as an Elder Scrolls game than Skyrim. So I'm gonna say that.
Skyrim shit game confirmed.
Yeah, I prefer ESO to Skyrim.
But they announced something
Anyway.
called Elder Scrolls Necrom. That's what they
Yeah, so
announced.
it's Hermaeus Mora, and I believe, and it's like apparently it's like I think the premise is like there's someone like it's like some sort of entity or group of people like having secrets. Hermaeus Mora is meant to be able to like see everything. Like he wants to collect all information from like the past and the future.
Right.
But like he can't see certain things. It's like so like it looks like Tamriel, the world of Elder Scrolls is like in danger. And it's like it's like there's this secret like you have to keep it, or like if they have a secret you have to try and find it. I couldn't quite figure it out, but I really like Hermaeus Mora, and again every single expansion they bring out, I really like the time the event like the either the theme of the area or like the theme of like the danger or like the enemies. So it's like to me, I see ESO stuff and go that is really cool. I need to actually play it, and it
Well,
has like the critical
they
flaws
did
MMOs have.
they announced some like Fallout 76 content, and I wanted to
Yeah,
mention it because they essentially because they did the pit right before Fallout 76. So they're like, let's go back
yeah,
to Fallout 3. Um,
yeah.
it seems like they were trying to go, let's go to Fallout New Vegas, but that's Obsidian. So we're going to Atlantic City instead. So that it seems like they're trying to do their own like version of New Vegas in Fallout 76, but we'll have to
Well,
see like
if you went to New Vegas, people would like call out the inaccuracies. If they do it this way, then it's harder to call out the inaccuracies because you have to know like the deep lore to figure out if it's wrong or not.
hmm. I'd be interested to see how that turns out. Obviously, I've played Fallout 76 and I'm not interested in playing that game, but uh
Yeah, it, ESO way better than 76, like
Um,
miles
well,
above.
one thing I wanted to call out actually is I wrote down Xbox 720 because I was like, oh, it would be funny if they announced a new Xbox, but they kind of did because they announced they're making a new revision of the Xbox Series S, which is going to have like a it's like a 1 terabyte SSD in it or a 2 terabyte SSD in it. So they are kind of doing a small revision because it's like
Yeah,
it's a black version of the Series S with a big terabyte SSD in it.
it's a small one, but yeah, black and bigger,
Yeah, bigger internal drive.
bigger on
Um,
the inside.
so it's going to cost more, but the big criticism was at the price the Series S is going to cost with the bigger internal storage. It's like $50, around $50 less expensive than the PS5 Digital Edition. And at which
Ooh,
point you could just
that's
get
a
the
bit
PS5
close.
Digital Edition, and you'd be
Yeah,
getting a much more powerful console.
yeah. You can just get an SSD later.
Uh, but yeah. Let's move on to So, first trailer we saw was. But immediately, I had no fucking idea what this was, but we know
Yeah, I was like, I,
we've been
I
joking for
mean,
a long time about Fable being a kart racing game because it's made by
yeah,
Playground Games, who do the
yeah,
amazing Forza games. But immediately we saw hyper realistic Richard Iowati,
yeah.
and I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
It was hilarious. Like it was good. I was like, what is this
This is
though?
such a good trailer. I love because the thing about like the Fable games that they were like super tongue in cheek and like chicken
Oh, it's just
chaser.
wanker.
Yeah. Oh, I love like the cut off swearing in this trailer as well. It's very. I like the so like we didn't
British
see
humor.
like pure gameplay, but we did get like in-engine footage sort of thing.
Yeah,
So
I
we
think
kind
I
of
think
know
some
what's
of this
going on here.
because this to me looks like an in
But
engine
if you
cutscene.
came to me and you said, "Oh, you know that Pokemon new Fable game? Yeah, it's gonna get bought by Microsoft, and you're gonna have fucking mods from the IT crowd chase you around a house as a giant. That's gonna be made by the guys who make the fucking racing game, Forza." And then I'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" But here we are.
Yeah.
Did you see the criticism that the main character of this game was getting on like social media and stuff? People are like,
No.
it was.
What is?
Do you remember the Alloy stuff where people were like, "Oh, they
Oh,
made
look at her
Alloy
hairs.
look ugly,"
Well, yeah, the
and
Aloy one was like, or the Aloy one is like, oh, it's like so high flared. They had like, because believe it or not, women have like hair on their skin,
then
guys.
everyone. So people were like fixed, and they were like making her look like different, changing her
Yeah,
appearance, and everyone was just
yeah,
pointing out like how ugly most male protagonists are in like RPGs and stuff.
yeah.
But yeah, I think
I
it's
don't know.
dumb.
I quite like navigating like different different body archetypes. Let's say I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I think it's kind of cool to see these different.
I think this looks really fucking cool. I'm so hyped
Yeah,
for
the
Fable
concept is
now
good. I want to see proper
because
mechanics. Let's say, but the concept is really cool. Yeah,
I loved Fable, like especially Fable
yeah,
Two, but
yeah.
I never played Fable Three.
And the mechanics are always exploitable,
And
very exploitable.
it seemed like for Fable Three they kind of didn't know where to go from there.
Yeah,
Like you had was there like a Connect on rail shooter or something they were doing with Fable or
I,
something like that?
I do not remember. But I
It's
remember the
not on
trailer for
rails,
Fable. I remember the trailer for Fable 3 being fantastic.
but
So I want to wait because I will say the trailers are always good for Fable, and again the concepts of Fable are always good. But I want to see how the mechanics and the rest of it go because that's always been the weakest part of Fable.
well,
So
we'll
we'll
have to
see.
see how
But it's a
Playground Games
completely
go.
different studio, completely like it's completely removed. So
Yeah, but this
it's
is what
like
I
treat it as
like
a new
is that
thing. Yeah,
they
yeah,
went
yeah,
like let's just do something new, which I really like.
yeah. But that's even more reason to see like to wait and see than like most other things though. But
Uh,
yeah, I'm excited for the concept at least.
Next up we have 33 Immortals. So this is like
Super co-op game.
33 player co-op game, and it's not only is it like super interesting because it's a 33 player like co-op like Hades sort of style game. It's also made by Thunder Lotus, who made the amazing Spiritfarer, which is like a really slow pace um narrative spirit game about like taking people to the afterlife sort of thing. Like it's a
Right.
completely different game to what this is. And they basically were just going, yeah, we don't really care like what vehicle we use to get there. We just want to make really interesting games. And this game, we wanted to explore really cool combat. And I'm like, I love that sort of approach you see from studios like SteamWorld,
Yeah.
like Imagine Games, like
They're experimenting with what they think is good.
um, what's the Ghostwire Tokyo guys, who just did like that new game. Tango Gameworks. So they're just like, we're just gonna make interesting games, and just it doesn't have to be the same genre, the same style as our previous game. Let's just make something interesting, and this looks really really cool. I watched some gameplay from the Xbox Extended game case that they did, and I think Phil Spencer was playing it on stage with some people, and it looked pretty fun. So I have seen some gameplay of this, and it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. It is
Next
really
up, we
cool.
have Tony's favorite game, Payday 3, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
Yeah, okay. Before we started the podcast, I wanted to just quickly I was like, I played Payday 2 like twice. I think it was Payday 2, not Payday
I've
1, but I
played
was like,
Payday 2. Payday 1 is a lot
I don't think I
shorter.
played. Yeah, I don't think I ever played Payday 1. I think I got straight into Payday 2. But I was just like looking
Yeah.
at this and go like, this looks exactly what I
It
played
does.
in Payday 2. And I'm
It
like, am I
looks
missing
exact
something here? Is
and
there a
I was
mechanic here that's different?
it looks exactly like Payday 2 to me as well, yeah.
But
Payday
why
the
would you
big
buy it? What?
the big change from Payday 1 to Payday 2 was they upped the ante. The areas were a lot bigger,
Yeah,
and they massively improved stealth mechanics. Like in Payday
yeah.
1, if you hit an enemy, that would immediately break stealth. But there was like actual stealth mechanics in Payday 2 where you could silently take out people, and there was a certain amount of people you could like shoot cameras tactically and stuff like that. They actually massively improved stealth in the second game, I would say, and the amount of like DLC and custom weapons they added was like a big improvement. The only thing I could see here is what it was sort of like the movement looks a lot faster, like the sliding.
Well, there was a slide. I didn't see the slide when I first watched this. Okay.
The destructibility looked quite different. Like the idea of being able to enter the buildings
Oh
more
yeah,
procedurally
I didn't
was
notice that
different.
either. Okay.
There was one weapon where it was sort of like there was like blue outlines behind shields, sort of thing. I haven't seen that before. But
Okay. So
overall, it
very
seems like if
similar.
you like Payday 2, you'll probably like Payday 3.
Yeah.
I think the big benefit of Payday 3 is that you don't have to buy 60 DLCs to feel like you're not missing
Well,
out on like half the content of the game.
my
But I'm
understanding of
sure
Payday
they'll
2 is
come.
like, yeah, I understand Payday 2 like it got better and then worse as more DLCs came out and they changed how
Hmm.
you did missions and got game content. So yeah, either they don't ruin it and just add content that you buy and then
I'm
it's
sure because I'm looking at
not
this and I'm
weird.
like, this is how Payday 2 looks. But I'm sure if I watched like a trailer of Payday 2, I'll be
Oh,
like,
it probably
oh,
is better.
this
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
like way worse than I remember it looking.
I assuming it. Yeah, I assume it'd be but better and the more modern engine and stuff is more up to date as well, so easier to
Payday 3 trailer
keep
here,
going.
guys. Here we go. Yeah, Payday 3 definitely looks a lot better. It's just like the style is very similar.
Yeah. No, I was more into the gameplay because, like, to me, like, yeah, I find it's like slightly prettier and like very similar. The location looks so similar to me, and then like the gameplay looks so similar to me. I was just like a bit confused. Like, what are we actually
Uh,
seeing here?
all right, let's go next. Something I really want to see coming out
The big
next
one.
year, Avowed.
This is the
Uh,
big one for me.
yeah, so this is like one I had on my list of stuff I want to see. Like I
Like
love
we saw
um
gameplay and like a hint of the story, right? Yeah, it's just like
I'm a big fan of Obsidian. I think they
yeah.
make like really interesting RPGs. Have you
At
ever
least
played um the game? What's it called? Let me look it up. I don't want to fuck it up. Pillars of Eternity.
I have not played it. I have seen Pillars of Eternity, and I always
Oh, I missed the
look.
part I wanted to talk about.
I'll go
I
back.
was
Go back.
like, because everyone was talking about it was like, oh, it looks like Sky. It's going to be like Obsidian Skyrim, and I was watching this
Well,
live, and I was like, it's not
sure.
Skyrim. It's Skyrim with
No.
guns. Like literally, when you remember when Far Cry
Yeah,
came out and IGN said
yeah.
that.
Wasn't it a
Um,
joke though? I can't. But no,
but
it's like a really cool concept. It's like you're an outsider coming in, and it's like you're not trusted, but you're also
what
powerful.
I wanted to say was, I've never played Pillars of Eternity either, but
Right.
this is in the same universe as Pillars of Eternity.
That
Both of those
makes a lot of
games.
sense.
Yeah,
That makes a lot of sense. Okay.
because I was watching the extended showcase on Xbox, and they were basically saying, "Oh, this is a prequel or sequel to Pillars of Eternity, or it's in the same universe." And they were like,
Yeah.
"Do you have to play the Pillar of Eternity games?" And they're basically like, "No, you don't really need to.
It's
You,
just
you don't need to
it's like a
play
D and
Pillars of
D story. It's in the
Eternity,
same
but
world,
you
but you
know
don't need to
there'll
know
be
that. Yeah.
things you'll notice from the other games if you have played Pillars of Eternity."
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting because I had no idea this was linked to Pillars of Eternity
No, I
until I
no
heard
no
that
idea.
in the showcase. So, but I thought the idea of like because apparently you're coming here on a you come here on like a boat in the beginning and you're sent here
Yeah.
to help with this plague. Like you see like the infection on the bear in the trailer,
Yeah, because you're
sort of thing.
sent by the emperor from another land to come here. That's what
Yeah,
I heard from the guy talking.
but
I guess
yeah.
you're gaining power, and it's just very interesting, like very magic. I kind of like it. It looks cool. I'm curious to know how it goes.
Next up, we have Sea of Thieves: The Legends of Monkey Island. This came out. Sorry, this comes out 1 month from now. I love the little Sea of Thieves mini adventures.
Yeah, they
So
look
the
really cool.
Pirates Life, the Pirates of the Caribbean collab was really cool. And it seems like they're doing another Tall Tale, all based around the Legend of Monkey Island. So I've never played Legend of Monkey Island. I'm probably never going to play Legend of Monkey Island because it's a point and click game. But
Yeah,
I'm more than happy to explore the interesting characters inside Sea of Thieves. This
yeah.
seems really cool.
Was
I
it
love these collabs they
Governor
do.
Guybrush?
Yeah, with these pants falling down.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought it was really cool.
the reason I love these Tall Tale things is I love the story content and stuff, but it
Yeah,
also allows you to have an area where I can play with my friends without getting griefed every 5 seconds by random players.
because are these instance PVE areas, are they?
Yeah, so nobody
Okay.
else, when you go into story areas, no one else can fuck with
Yeah,
you, basically.
that's why I really like the sound of them, and I also like the fact they just like bringing in like anything piratey from any other like franchise. I just thought it was really cool.
We've got to think about what's the most piratey game that needs to be in a Sea of Thieves collab. Assassin's Creed Black Flag Adventure. Here we go. They're going to go to the Animus inside Sea of Thieves
They're
and break
gonna
out
get
the Matrix.
they're gonna get Desmond's brain, and they're gonna go in.
I'm typing in pirate games. So we always talk about how there's not enough pirate games.
Yeah, well, I think we need this part of franchise. It doesn't just need to be games we're putting in. Just any franchise of any any kind of pirate. Oh, Treasure Island. That's a
Yeah.
pirate. We need that. That'd be really cool, actually. So it's coming. So that says it's coming to Xbox, PC, and cloud. How does that work?
xCloud. Yeah, xCloud is
Okay.
their streaming service. Next up we have Like a Dragon Infinite Dong.
I I really like the
I love the trailer
uh,
here. Like
yeah.
we see no gameplay, and I'm like, oh, I like the trailer.
It doesn't matter. But I don't know what it is, but like creative censoring, I just really appreciate. It's just so
Well, it's
funny
like
to
in the
me.
Simpsons movie where they have like Bart
Yeah.
skateboarding naked, and they just have him completely covered up, apart from like a couple of frames. Just like
Yeah.
that's the joke.
I love the
Um,
crab, like the crab one in this got me in the show.
so I believe this is Ichiban. There's two protagonists to the main Like a Dragon series, right? And I
Yeah.
believe this one was introduced in 6, Like a Dragon 6, or Like a
This
Dragon,
guy's
Like a
in Zero.
Dragon.
Yeah.
Is he in
Oh,
6? Okay, so I've never played a Yakuza game, so it's on my list. I really want to play one. I'm a big fan of Sega shit. So I really want to get into these, but I just thought the idea, because they've always been in Japan, it's like
yeah.
now he's in like what looks like somewhere in
Calif-
America, maybe like California or something.
yeah, that's like California to
Wait,
me.
was it? I think some people said it might have been like Hawaii, but I think it's more like
I
California. It seems like.
don't think this is Hawaii. I mean, I could be mistaken. Like, I'm not American, obviously, but to me, like, I'm getting Californian vibes.
What does it say on there? It says Kahakai.
That probably is Hawaii then.
Hawaiian word of the day, Kahakai. So it could
Right.
be Hawaii.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, but we need to wait to hear more about this game because I don't even know if it's gonna be. Is it gonna be turn based or is it going? It seems like they're going back to the real time sort of like Dragon games again. Um,
Was this one
like
that doesn't have a number in it? So maybe it's yeah. I
it's
don't know.
it's
There seems
it's
to have like two versions.
it's got a sideways 8 in it.
Yeah,
What do you mean? It's
it's
got a
true.
number in it. Infinity number. But yeah, that's a pure cinematic, and I'm all for it. It looks
It was
great.
really good, so I can't hate it. You kind of know what you're getting, but yeah, I'm curious to see how it goes. Like,
Well,
yeah,
I
it's
just one thing I want to say about that: the Yakuza games are all in Japanese, right? And
yeah,
all the characters are Japanese. I
yeah.
really want to. It's going to be really interesting to
The
see
fish out of water.
a story Yakuza game where the main character does not speak English, so he has no idea what's going on.
I hope he has a stupid translator that he needs. Like that'd be great.
Next, we had a bunch of Persona games as well, but I don't know if you wanted
Yeah, I
to talk
skipped
about
those.
those. We had Jasont from Don't Nod. This looked like, as you said before, another one of the Strand type games.
The third
It's a
Strandlight type
action
game.
puzzle climbing game. It's essentially like a narrative climbing game. You have
Yeah,
to try and
you're
get
trying
to
to
the
solve
top. It didn't seem
parkour puzzles.
it didn't really seem like a rage bait sort of climbing game. But the one of the interesting things about this is Unreal Engine 5, and it has a demo for the Steam Demo Fest as well. So you can
Okay.
currently play this as well. So I'm going to be checking this one out as part of our Tangerine coverage of the Steam
Oh,
Demo
so you've
Fest.
got. So those are you gonna get? Like, you're gonna get like tools and things to, like try and help you and things,
Where
or
there is like more gameplay sort of things as you go deeper into the trailer. It goes from cinematic to more gameplay.
yeah. So to me, it reminds me of like some of my favorite parts from like Assassin's Creed games, but like on steroids, with like making it more puzzle. Like, how do you climb up this area?
But we'll
Which
have to
is
see
really cool.
like what they want to do because this is Don't Nod, and if you know
Yeah.
Don't Nod, they did like Life is Strange, which is like much
Oh,
more
okay.
story based like
Yeah.
games,
There's no real game. Well, okay.
or
There's
do you
no like.
remember?
Yeah.
But this seems more like one of the earlier works. I don't know if you remember this game. It was called Remember Me, which is like a weird
Yes. Yeah.
action
Yeah.
adventure. There was like sort of
Wait, are they
platforming in that.
French?
They're French, yeah.
Yeah, I remember it being like a good attempt, but like it was kind of like anemic in what they wanted to do, but like it was a cool idea. Yeah, I do remember. Funny enough, I know the jokes at the time, and I remember all of this. The jokes at the time is you won't remember this game despite the name, but it's like, no, I do remember me.
Next up, we have Still Wakes the Deep, which is a narrative horror game coming at the first quarter of next year. It is from the Machine for Pigs guys. Yeah, the Chinese Room, like the Dear Esther guys.
Yeah.
And I like these guys' games. They always seem to do like really interesting narrative games.
The newer
But
stuff is better in my opinion than
yeah,
the older stuff for sure. Not that all stuff is
but
bad.
what's a fucking terrifying place on Earth? Well, if you're in the middle of an oil rig in the middle of nowhere, that would
And you're
be pretty
trapped.
fucking terrifying. And what
Especially if you
if you're terrified of
yeah.
water as well? Like it's
Yeah.
very like water and like this sort of it's very Eldritchian.
Yes.
Like in the same way.
But modern.
It's like water or space or so you
Yeah.
just don't know what's in it in a lot of ways.
I would say that
Whereas
this is the first like watery Eldritchy. Maybe
no
I don't know.
dredge.
Maybe I'm just getting vibes of Eldritchy. This is like the first modern Eldritchy thing in my like water thing. So like I'm kind of
What
curious.
about
And yeah,
dredge?
an oil rig is a fantastic setting.
What about dredge, the Eldritch fishing game?
That's more like I don't know. I always thought it was like is that you think that's like contemporary?
Yeah, big
I
time.
always thought it was like it could be like a 50s like fishing stuff.
Well,
Like
the most recent thing that the Chinese Room did that I really enjoyed was Little Orpheus on the Apple Arcade. I thought that game was
hmm
great.
yeah,
So if
yeah.
it's up to that quality, then yeah, definitely I want to check that one out. Next up, we have Bioshock the Clockwork Revolution
hmm
from In Exile. Now, In Exile make really interesting like CRPG kind of games, right? Sort of more like the classic style of RPG games, right?
Yeah, where like you have more room for choice systematic because it's like
But it seems that
yeah.
this is going to be their first like first person RPG game,
This is gonna be
and
the Bioshock Infinite
dude,
game, right?
looking at this trailer, it looks so much like Bioshock Infinite. It's insane. Like
Yeah,
people have been like, it's just steampunk, but it is so much Bioshock Infinitely while being steampunk that I think it's a
yeah.
fair comparison. And it's like
I think
Also,
it still looks
Bi-
good, and I think it looks
well,
unique. But yeah, it's very similar.
the whole idea of Bioshock Infinite was the idea of opening rifts in different timelines, and
Yep.
this seems to be going down that path as well.
Yeah.
I was so confused when I saw this. I was like, is this to do with Bioshock Infinite? Because it seems so
Yep.
closely related, but it seems like
Yeah. A
you're
little bit different.
you're going to have like a full open world that's going to change based on your consequences, and
Which is a cool concept.
that's a really cool idea. Like the steampunk world.
I've always wanted to see that with like newer technology. We've always had the promise of like your actions will actually change the world, and we've never really seen that.
Yeah.
So hopefully, again, I'm gonna temper my expectations because it's never actually been done
Well,
correctly.
I know
before,
people
so...
love like the Wasteland games, and I've heard great things about those. But I'm more of a first-person kind of gamer, so it'd be really interesting to see this. I think this looks like really, really cool.
Yeah.
So interested to check that one out. But yeah,
that factions you can choose and things. That's like a really cool idea.
That was the end of the Xbox conference, and then we go straight into the start. They did a separate conference in Starfield. One thing I wanted to mention from Microsoft, you know,
is it Starfield only, or was it Bethesda technically?
It was literally the Starfield conference. They did an entire conference on Starfield. Bethesda games were inside the Xbox Microsoft one.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, okay.
So I thought Microsoft one was the strongest overall.
Yes.
But lacked a few games I would have loved to see from my bingo card. Also, Phil Spencer was wearing a Hexen t-shirt, and they didn't announce a single boomer shooter, which really pissed me off. Last year, Phil was... I can't remember what shirt he was wearing, but he was wearing a t-shirt that he teased, and then it became like a game they did the next year.
Right, okay, so you're thinking it was a pre-teaser.
So, Phil's wearing a Hexen t-shirt this year. I wonder what we're going to be seeing next year. I think he came out and said, like, it's not a teaser, but yeah, Phil wearing a Hexen t-shirt just makes me, like, want a Hexen game even more now. Like, we need to get...
You're pretty sus.
Like, I've been playing a Medieval recently. We need more magic boomer shooters.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, I think they did, like, a gameplay stuff and a deep dive on Starfield. I gotta be honest, I genuinely think Starfield looks really good.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest with you.
My opinion is I've gone from it's gonna be alright to it looks good. I'm not pushing it to really good personally. I am really happy that we've got campaigns that actually seem interesting.
Yeah, I like because they did. I watched the deep dive on this, and they were talking about the art style, which I think was one of the most interesting art styles I've ever heard. It's called NASA punk. So they want this idea of like real physical, like scientific, like stuff that could actually exist, but then also have this futuristic style to them. It's NASA punk, which I'm like, that's a really interesting way to describe this.
That's weird. It's normally just referred to as like near future stuff, but yeah, NASA punk's a fine way to say that, especially considering the.
We know on the console side, it's going to be locked at 30 FPS. We know on the Series S and the X. Hopefully that means the PC will be unlocked. This is probably due to the CPU issues that they're going to run into, because it seems like there is a lot of simulation going on here when it comes to rendering individual objects. Like in the trailer, we saw somebody who was like, I like going around and stealing sandwiches and hoarding them on my ship. And it seemed like they were like always rendering those sandwiches. Like, this massive pile of sandwiches. Like, they want to have that more like heavy realism angle to it.
Well, I also think it's just a creation engine issue. It's just gonna be that they want to do a lot of simulation stuff with them. It's going to really strain the creation engine.
Well, because like they did stuff really well. Like they had distant fog that looks really, really good. It seemed like the planets they showed off looked really good. Like, I think there's probably going to be a mix of main quest planets that are like specifically built like quest hubs, and then there'll be a couple like No Man's Sky style planets that are like more barren just for resource gathering, is what I'm going to guess.
I have still two really. I had three big concerns before, and now I only have two. But one of them was like the companions, right? Like, but they actually showed them off here, and they're interesting. I'm still concerned that the way they're going to tell the story is going to be very limiting. Like similar to Fallout 4. I'm
Yeah.
very scared of that, and I'm still very concerned with how like the game, like the actual like gunplay or like the actual like
The
mission
gunplay looks a
design.
lot better, I will
I still
say,
think it looks okay, not exceptional though, like
because
from what I saw.
there was a article recently came out recently which said id Tech helped on Bethesda's new Starfield game. It was
Yeah,
like, oh, id Tech
uh,
helped with the gunplay, and they basically just
sure.
came out and said no, they helped us with motion blur. They helped us with like making the game look better, which, to be fair, is one of id Tech's strengths. Like
Yeah.
the its engine is like super performant and it looks really really good. So
Mm-hmm. They've got
which
some.
is
They've got
always
some
like
technical engineers.
a bugbear of like Bethesda games. They always had awful motion blur, but they actually are going to have good motion blur in Starfield from what we've seen
Okay.
from the trailers.
Well, I think you're gonna need it considering the motion they've got. But yeah, it's good they focus on that. But I'm still concerned with the gameplay. I'm still concerned. Like I personally am not looking at it and going, "Oh, this is great." I'm looking at it and go, there are moments where it's good, and I'm seeing other moments like this is very Fallout 4, and I'm concerned. Um,
Well,
but I'm also
my current position right now is my current thinking is I'm going to get a Xbox Game Pass trial and I'm going to try it
yeah,
when it comes out.
yeah,
That's how I'm
absolutely,
treating Starfield.
yeah, yeah. I will watch people play it for sure. Like I'm not gonna like, but yeah, I've gone from being like it's gonna be okay at best. I think it's gonna be good at best. But
Yeah.
I'm still concerned, like, yeah, how they're gonna tell the story and the gameplay and you know what? More importantly, is like I do not. They seem to be really bad at like constructing levels. Bethesda recently, of like being able to like make like good level design to like make even if like it has good like gameplay, like good like combat mechanics. Having a good level design is very important, and I have not seen that in like the last decade. So I am concerned still, but there's at least a vision in like the art style and like the ships and the companions. So like I have faith in that now.
We got a new trailer for the Cyberpunk DLC as well. One of the big things I wanted to mention about the Cyberpunk DLC, it seems like it's not just going to be additional story content for Cyberpunk. From what I've heard, it seems like there's like a Cyberpunk 2.0 update coming with this DLC where the entire base game is pretty much being reworked
Yeah,
alongside this DLC.
I've been. I don't know if this is just rumors or this has been like half confirmed or something, but it's like there's been like.
I think
I'm
it's
gonna
been like
say it's
half
rumors, but I don't
confirmed
know.
by people who've played
Yeah,
this sort of stuff.
but I've heard there's like rumors they can like massively overhaul how the
Yeah,
police will
that
interact,
the new
considering
police
the
systems coming in,
yeah
clothes are cosmetic. They're reworking the skill trees, the talents,
yeah.
the weapons. Like they're reworking everything in the game, sort
They're
of
trying
thing.
to make
So
everything more immersive, simmy stuff elements, hopefully. But I would really want to go back and like change some of like
I
again, this is kind of a Bethesda problem. Like go back and like change some of the older levels and missions so you could complete it in different ways.
and
That'd
you
be
know
my
what?
best
And
change, but
this seems
not
really
much
really
can you do.
cool. And you know what the worst thing about the timing of this is? This is coming out 2 weeks after Starfield, so
Mm-hmm.
it dude September is so stacked for games. Holy shit!
Yeah, I would
September.
generally, considering this is just an update, I would seriously recommend them
Well, it's the
they hold this
DLC.
back.
It's the DLC
Yeah, well, yeah.
with like
But
Idris
I'd
Elba and
suggest
stuff like that.
it's not a new game. I really suggest they hold this back, considering Starfield. So, like, at least by a month.
Oh, and we also got a new DLC for High on Life called High on Knife, which is
Oh
like
yeah, I saw that.
High on Life was like the most like I think it was the third most popular Games Pass game of all time. Like lots of people played this on Games Pass, loved it. It was like I wasn't sure what was going to go on with the game since like Justin Roiland left the company. He was like a
Yeah,
big major. He was like most of the voices of the guns, as well as like a big creative vision behind like Rick and Morty. But he had his whole like domestic abuse charges and the case going on and stuff like that. Um, but it seems like they're doing a DLC for this, and they basically got a bunch of more comedians in, and it's gonna be more like half comedy, half horror. I was
Yeah,
watching
which
like
is really
I
cool.
was reading an IGN article, I think it was, and they were saying like they want it to be like half comedy, half horror. And, like this, it's going to be interesting to try and balance the stuff. Like a game that I played, that did like a really good job of balancing comedy and horror was Hello Puppets VR, where you
Yeah,
have like the puppet hands that
very
talk
good.
to you. That was very funny, but also like
Yeah,
very good horror, like a good balance.
and very dark like concepts and things. Yeah.
Yeah, so if they do this well, it could be good. Just be interested to see like the direction they go now that Justin Roiland, the Rick and Morty creator, is no longer involved. Whether they try and keep making High on Life games or they, go down a different path, we'll have to wait and see. And one more thing from the extended showcase. Oh, again, I put Avowed on here because they did show off some more stuff and they talked about the story sort of stuff, about like the Pillars of Eternity sort of stuff. They showed
Right.
more of like
This is where they said that. Okay.
they showed more of like the general game world as well, which I thought was cool to
Okay.
see. Um, yeah, and then one game they didn't show off in the actual main one was called Go Mecha Ball, which is another roguelike game. But I thought it looked like a really interesting, like fast paced sort of like pinball shooter sort of like roguelike game. I think,
Oh, over the top isometric Metroid,
yeah, sort of
but
like.
you're shooting more maybe.
Yeah, you got like that sort of like ball attack, and then you come down pipes in like slow motion. It's very like fast
Yeah,
and
that's cool.
fluid,
I like
and
that.
it looks really really cool. I think like
Take
they
that,
could have
Samus.
they could have put this in the main showcase, and I would have been like,
Yeah,
oh,
they
that's
could
really
have.
cool. Like,
Yeah, they should. Yeah.
but this was just in the extended one. I thought that looked really good. Um, yeah, let's move on to the PC gaming show. I'll read out my notes for the PC gaming show quickly. I wrote cringe. Please stop it. Please
They're
stop it
not.
with please stop it with the bits that take up so much time. Just show more trailers.
I
They
don't mind the bits. They just need to be shorter,
The
much
AI
shorter.
thing was so tiring. It was a
Yeah.
really weak conference again. I don't think they had a big sponsor this year like they did in the past. They had like in the past they've had like Epic sponsor, Intel sponsor, AMD sponsor.
Yeah.
It seems like they were trying to be like, "Hey, we who wants to sponsor us?" And then it was like, "Nobody." And it was like, okay. I just think the PC gaming conference is kind of dying down in terms of like,
Yeah. It used to be really good. Like the first two, first
yeah.
three, first three, I think, maybe first two were
I
really
was
good.
hoping Misha Burton was going to be on it again, so I could talk about Star Trek. But we had a Star Trek game announced, so I don't know. Every year I watch the PC gaming show because I want to support PC gaming, but it's just I'm there's so little that interests me in this conference
Yeah.
every year. It's like, and
Last
that's
year was really bad, but this year.
but it's like every PC gaming is so vast. I guess
Yeah.
like with Microsoft, you know, like what kind of games you're going to get. But with PC gaming, it seems just like such a mixed bag. And it seems like a lot of the time I'm not interested in a lot of the stuff. Like it's a lot of like strategy sort of RTS sort of stuff, like stuff that you're more interested in than I'm not interested in.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes they do like PC gamer stuff I am interested in, like boomer shooters. But I don't think we saw like any sort of boomer that we barely saw any like boomer shootery stuff this year. It seems like PC Gaming Show just feels like another indie showcase at this point, but with
Yeah.
awful production shit that makes me cringe so much I want to die.
I would say as well, like I know there's like games we missed in the other ones, but I felt there was more mediocre games here and less. I don't know. I need to go. I haven't gone through it properly yet, but like I wasn't like I just panned through. It's like okay, but I
Well,
haven't.
let me go into
It
some of
is
the stuff I
difficult to
thought
see
was
strategy stuff.
interesting. Ebenezer and the Invisible World. We had a Metroidvania game announced here. I thought this looked pretty interesting. I love Metroidvania games. I thought the art and
Yeah,
the style was pretty cool here. Looked pretty interesting. It was like sort of like that Victorian style era, but with like combat Metroidvania sort of game. It looked pretty
They've actually
interesting.
put color in the Victorian game, which is good.
Sulfur, which was one where I just thought this looked really good. This is one of like my standout games. It reminds me of like what's that game? What the Golf. It looks like the art style of What the Golf, but a boomer shooter is the best way I could describe it. It's that very like
Yeah,
clean pixel sort of look, like
yeah.
very smooth look to it. I thought this looked really really cool. I love the art style of this, and I love like the gameplay and like the attaché case sort of stuff. I think this looks really 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 clean, and interested to see more of that. Um, we don't know when that's coming out though. Next up, we have Dread Pilots. Dread Pilots is a roguelike survival from Clay. One of the big announcements was, oh, hey, we have a new Clay Entertainment game coming out, which I was like, oh, cool. I always like Clay because they do stuff like Don't
Yeah.
Starve and Oxygen Not Included and stuff like that. They published like one of my favorite platforming games, Hot Lava, which is another cool game. So I'm like, oh, if
Mm.
Clay's doing something new, I want to check that out. Um, But yeah, this one looks pretty interesting. It seems like it's like a what's that game called? Insanely Twisted Shadow Planet. Kind of reminds me of that a little bit.
Mm.
Like going through dark voids in a little ship, fighting creatures, getting resources, that sort of stuff. Looks like it could be fun, so I'll have to check out more of that game. Um, I put down Invector Rhythm Galaxy. I don't know why. I always say I don't particularly like rhythm games, and then I always put down trailers for rhythm games. I remember this one because I was like, oh, it's all the
Oh,
TikTok songs, which
it's
I'm not
audio surf
playing
too.
the audio for. I don't know, I kind of like rhythm games
Yeah,
sometimes, but not
these
always. Like,
ones, rhythm racing or like rhythm, like I don't know if you could count as rhythm racing per se, but that this sort of like rhythm driving, let's say, is like
because
how I'm better at that. And
yeah,
I do like that a lot more.
I like audio surf. I like
Yeah,
beat hazard. I like what's it called? That new racing game that just came out. That
the one in the
was
tangerine, or was it
yeah,
in the
it was like
pocket
it
of the
was like an
tangerine?
indie one.
Yeah,
Come on, but it was like it had Monster Cat songs to it, and it was
yeah.
like you had to keep driving, and there was this beat to it. It wasn't like rhythm based, but it was like racing sort of, and the beat was part of it, sort of thing. I thought that was really good. But yeah, as we have Parcel Corps, I immediately saw this and said, "Yeah, I'm in." This one looks really really cool. It's like BMX delivery game.
Yeah, this is good.
I like the energy of the trailer as well.
That's
Um,
good.
yeah.
Okay, I hadn't seen that bit.
But art style looks
That's cool.
clean. It's got
Yeah.
like that sort of like skateboarding
Okay,
vibe to it.
Joe, imagine this, what I said before. Imagine if this had a graffiti element to it as well as the biking.
There's
Like, that's
graffiti.
where
There's graffiti in this game.
there's
It's just
graffiti,
on
but
the
then there's a
walls.
graffiti, like adding graffiti mechanic. Like, that's where I think graffiti
The
mechanics should be.
graffiti games are coming back, guys. You need to tag stuff. It's like Jet
I don't
Set
have a problem with
Radio.
graffiti. I don't have a problem with graffiti in game. I just feel like graffiti as the main mechanic, I'm a bit dubious on. But anyway, this is
Right.
good though. Is
Yeah.
that play? There's police brutality. Are they the enemies?
Next up, we have an RTS game, which I don't like RTS games, but I put this one in because it is Frost Giant Studios. It is
Okay.
the ex StarCraft, Warcraft developers that went on to make their own RTS game. And you immediately watch this, and if you've played StarCraft or Warcraft, you're like, oh, that
It's like,
looks immediately like Warcraft or StarCraft. Like, it is very much that style. And
yeah.
um, I was a big fan of Warcraft 3 as a kid, so I like those sort of like. I went back and I played the Reforged game, and I
I would
played
like to
like a
know.
couple of campaigns, but I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's sort of like nostalgia. I'm probably not going to get this, but it does look good from what I
My
can see.
I think I said this before about like this is like they need to because I think okay I'm compared to StarCraft, right? They have like
Yeah,
three very strong, very good thematic factions
yeah,
that make mechanical sense, that gameplay mechanical sense to the units and stuff. I always feel like, what is the appeal here? Oh, this is like, how do you make it not a generic strategy game? That's, I guess, what I'm trying to say in
I know
terms
the
of
art
theme.
style looks pretty clean. I
Yeah,
think.
that's fine. But what are the factions like? Can you from what we've seen, like, can you
I have
like,
no idea. I have no
yeah,
idea.
that's my concern here. And then it always has been with these like other Blizzard, like, or ex Blizzard employee games sort of thing, is like, I kind of want to, I want to see stronger themes. I want to see, like, just like go crazy and make them interesting.
Yeah, I thought that one was like out of all the RTS sort of stuff. I was like, oh, that one looks it looks kind of clean. And then we had Dune Awakening. This was the Conan Exiles Dune game. Basically, it's made by the Conan Exiles game
Right.
guys, but it's a Dune game. I think the art looks really cool. I'm interested to see like how it works, like because they're saying like there was events that would happen that would change the world, like.
That's cool. Yeah.
Um, I've seen the new Dune film. I've never like read the book or seen the original film, but I
Wasn't it?
like the new film. I think it looks really good and it's an interesting film. So
I think,
I think the world is cool. So it's interesting to see more games made in it. What are you gonna say?
speaking of Dune, like, I completely forgot that was here. Like, wasn't there like a flight simulator Dune experience that was coming at the
Yeah,
second Dune was coming out in
yeah.
November this year?
I didn't mention that because I don't play Microsoft Flight Simulator, but there's a
I just thought
Microsoft
it was
Flight
cool because
Simulator DLC
man trying to
coming
fly
to.
a ship in Dune.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I was like, there's like a 1% chance I ever play this.
Yeah. I was actually more excited. It's like an event at the same time to
But they
promote
had
the
like those
second Dune
butterfly
film.
bird things as like a
Yeah,
update, like they did for the
yeah.
Halo one they did before, um,
So it's really
for like
cool.
the Pelicans. Um, but yeah, they did a
Dragon's
big
Flight.
update to like it seems like they're doing like a big update to Microsoft Flight Simulator where they're adding like rescue missions and that sort of stuff where you have like purpose. I couldn't
Yeah,
tell if it was an update or like a new game because they just called it Microsoft
I
Flight Simulator
think
2024.
either gonna be an update or DLC. I don't know. I assume it's just
Yeah.
update.
But yeah,
It's
Tony,
probably
that was all I wanted to talk about in Ubisoft, the PC game, and like there really
yeah,
wasn't that
yeah.
much.
I can't think of anything else that you've missed, but there probably is like one. But yeah,
So let's move on to Ubisoft conference. Here's my notes from the Ubisoft conference. There's a new Just Dance game coming, guys. They did a live Just Dance performance on the stage.
it wouldn't be a Ubisoft
Dude,
conference
it was one of the most Ubisoft E3 conferences I've ever seen. There was a new Just Dance. There was a live music performance for no reason. I'm
But
not
they're
kidding you.
furries,
Tony,
though.
Skull and Bones has been in development for 10 years.
Yep.
It is one of the longest developments for any game, like development hell.
Yep.
They showed off nothing. They did a live musical performance for Skull and Bones. That's what they did at E3 this year for Skull and
So
Bones.
so basically they scrapped it and started again, and they haven't done it in the show still. Good.
They announced they're doing a Far Cry Blood Dragon anime because Netflix will greenlight literally anything.
Thank God. I mean, that could
There
be cool,
was
I guess, but we'll see.
there was someone on the stage with a heavy French accent I couldn't understand. Um, And then fucking they patted themselves on the back and they just came on the stage and started clapping and going, "Look at us!" Like
Wait, what?
the Gilead guy, you know, the CEO of Ubisoft.
Yeah. Why?
He
But
came on the
why?
stage and he started clapping and was like, "Good job, guys, we did it." And it's like, can you imagine BlizzCon, right? Bobby Kotick walks on the stage and starts
Yeah.
clapping and going, "We did it, guys, we did it." Like, that would be the most infuriating thing you've ever seen. Like, Ubisoft, you do not have the good faith to come on stage and start clapping and talk about how much good shit you've been doing recently. Like,
Maybe they're thinking how well they've abused their own employees.
like, holy shit.
You know, to be fair, Joe, they live in their ivory tower, so.
Ivory Tower Games had an announcement this conference, so we'll talk about that. So one of the first interesting things we saw was the Avatar game that's been teased forever. Looks like it might actually be coming out. So it is.
I am interested in this, but yeah.
It is Massive Entertainment. So if you don't know, Massive Entertainment did the what's it called? The Division. So they actually are one of the more um, what was the word I'm looking for? Like technically
Yeah.
good developers. Like they seem to make good looking games that like have
There are issues
pretty
with their stuff,
decent
but I blame
games.
Ubisoft,
Yeah.
like the publishing, for that side. But yeah, it's more competently put together the Division games to some extent.
One thing I wanted to mention was so it'll be on the Snowdrop engine, which is like the Division's engine, which has been used for
Oh,
a
it's the
while.
same one. Okay.
It's a good looking engine, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
One thing I will mention though, the Division came out and it was called the Downgrade because based on their E3 trailer, they completely downgraded the graphics of the final
yeah,
game. So I
yeah,
will immediately say anything you see of um, uh, the new what's it called Avatar game or the new Star Wars game, be a little bit wary. But based on the trailer, it did look like a game that was running on a PS5. Like they said it was running on a
yeah,
PS5, and the graphics quality and like you could see like the FSR upscaling they were using. Like it looked like it was feasible to run on a PS5 while still looking
yeah.
like very good. So it seems like it might not be a downgrade, but given their track record, I'm not 100% trusting these guys. But from the trailer we saw here, it seems like it's essentially going to be a Avatar game. It's essentially Far Cry, but Avatar. It seems like you're
Yeah.
going to be going
Which
around
I'm all
trying
for.
to reclaim bases, but instead of
Yeah,
reclaiming bases from random paramilitary groups, it's going to be you're reclaiming bases for nature sort of thing. And it
yeah,
seems like based on the trailer, it's going to like actually have an impact on the world where you have these bases and then they become like overgrown with grass and they get reclaimed with nature. It's very like what's the game? Alloy game.
Horizon.
It's very like Horizon sort of like theme. It seems
Okay.
like where you like nature
Just trying to save
reclaiming.
nature. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think the trailer looks good. If you're into Far Cry but Avatar, then this could be the game for you. Which
I mean, it'd be
I
more
know one of my
interesting than
friends
the
is a massive
stuff.
fan of Far Cry and Avatar, so
Oh wow, it's a
yeah.
no-brainer then, isn't it?
We saw some more like actual gameplay from Prince of Persia again. Looks really really good. The straight up gameplay. Really interested to play this game. I wanted to briefly talk about the Crew Motorfest from our friends over at Ivory Tower at Ubisoft. Um, Man, so I've talked about this before. One of my like guilty pleasure games. I like the Crew 2 because it is a fun, um, like jump in, jump out game. It's the breadth of the entirety of America. You can just drive around anywhere. You can immediately be in a car. You can immediately be in a plane. You can immediately be in like a boat. You can immediately be in like a dirt bike or a motorcycle. It's very much like arcadey jump in, jump out. Like it's a bit of everything. It seems like they saw how popular Forza was and were like, we're gonna do
Yeah,
like an open world racing game, but we're only gonna be doing the cars, and this is not the direction I would like the Crew to go in. I like the Crew 2. I would have liked to see more of a direction of the Crew 3, where it's more of that quick jump in, jump out gameplay of like keeping the car, keeping the planes, keeping the bikes, the dirt sections, the boats. That stuff's really cool. But it seems like they really want to try and hit this um, Forza market. That seems to be the direction they're going, and personally, that's not something I'm particularly interested in. Like, if I could play Forza, why wouldn't I just play Forza? Is the question for me.
yeah, that's the point. I guess it's a different environment, and maybe yeah, it looks different in its own way. But yeah, I think yeah, they
Like,
should keep
like the
their
Crew
distinctive
had
feature. I
something
agree with you.
unique.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. They announced an Assassin's Creed VR game that they've been Like it was teased
On the
and leaked for a long
Meta.
time. Yeah, on the Meta Quest. I can't wait to look at these pre-rendered animations that are not actual gameplay. I can't wait till we actually find out what the fuck this game's going to look like.
Yeah, I don't like. You're gonna show it as if you're playing that you shouldn't show it as pre-rendered, like find like a cutscene and things, but yeah.
So we've got Star Wars Outlaws here. I'm actually quite interested in this. I think this looks quite good. So we saw like EA lost the exclusive license rights to Star Wars games, even though they had their quite popular Survivor game and the Fallen Order game, which are
Well,
quite
I
good
think
games.
Disney looked at what a Games Workshop was doing. They went, "Why don't we just give our license to everyone?"
Well, I think it was in direct response to Battlefront 2. Battlefront
Yeah,
2's
it was. They were
microtransactions
very
were
angry.
so unpopular that they were like,
Yep.
"Look, we're gonna have to."
We're not extending. I assume there's a contract before that. Like, we're not extending the contract beyond that point. So whatever time is left is what you've got. It's quite interesting though. It's like I guess this must have been in development before the contract ran out. The exclusivity, like.
But if this is if the Avatar game is Avatar Far Cry, this seems like
Star
Wars Assassin's Creed, yeah, which I'm for.
And I'm
like,
all for that.
I like this idea of being like a smuggler, and I like the more
Yeah.
stealth approach to it. I think that's a really cool idea. Like,
I think we've had a lot of overpowered characters in Star Wars video games.
like
recently.
Ubisoft used to be known for a certain stealth franchise called Splinter Cell, so it would be interesting to see them go back. Because like Assassin's Creed games haven't been stealth games for a long time, and like they've gone to more like RPG games.
Splinter Cell has always been a better stealth game than what Assassin's Creed ever had. So this actually looks more Splinter Cell to me.
Again, this is
hardcore Assassin's Creed.
This is massive entertainment again. So it is the Division guys Snowdrop engine. Looks really good. And it has like full on like stealth sections, shooting sections. There was driving sections. It seems like very open world.
Pod racing.
It seems like there is also drivable space sections as well.
Oh, that's really cool.
One thing I thought was really cool. So we can see the shooting here. I'll skip ahead to like the driving section. One thing I thought was really cool. You know, like how on the PS4 they hid loading sections by having your character walk through a tight crevasse in a mountain.
Yeah.
It seems like they're doing like seamless loading screens in this. When you go inside the ship, you just go through like these gorgeous looking clouds, and then you're immediately in space, sort of thing, which looks really good. I'll
SSD loading.
Skip ahead to what I'm talking about because I thought it looks really cool. It seems like you can like fly around your ship however you want to, sort of thing, in space as well. Which is, I don't think you could do that in Jedi Survivor or Fallen Order.
No, you can be in the ship. There's like stuff to do or like people to talk to, but then like you go to a mission. It was like Fallen Order is like very much like Mass Effect, I would say, in terms of what you do with the ship.
But yeah, this seamless loading screen looked really good. It was a really good idea for them to do that. But yeah, I thought this, Ubisoft Star Wars game looks really good.
Yeah,
into full space combat. Which is fucking awesome.
Yeah. This is a part of like I want to see more of this like side of Star Wars, that the Star Wars universe, Star Wars franchise, and the games. I like you see like more than 3 stormtroopers, and you're kind of a bit worried, and you have to hide instead of like no, they're easy. That's good.
Yeah. And then finally we had the UploadVR conference. So I'll just quickly go through some of this. We had Dead Hook, which was like a roguelike game. I got very much Doom Eternal vibes from this. It looked very much like Doom Eternal in VR until like you have the spaceship that you go through the portal through to get to your missions, which is like straight up out of Doom Eternal. Right. It looks really good. And then you see some of the assets, and it's like, and here's a giant Unity pre-made crystal that's super low resolution because, of course, it has to run in a quest. Yeah. And it's like, oh man, I wish they would have gone like further with the graphics and they weren't, held back by like the quest graphics. But I thought, that
it's a shame you couldn't almost have two versions, but yeah.
Yeah.
Or at least have settings that scale really well.
Stride was like a really early VR game about like free running, and the Stride Fates game that they're coming out with
You
now
not
looks
get
really,
sick
really
from
fun. It depends how your VR legs are. I mean, there's like
Okay.
variations of VR. Like, my VR legs are very different at this point. Like,
Okay.
I
I'm
wouldn't
honestly, I'm afraid of heights. So, like, I feel like I would not be enjoying this whatsoever.
like in the beginning it was like teleportation or I'll throw up, but then I'm just like leaping across a room in Gorilla Tag. So my VR
Right.
legs have changed over the years. Like, and it depends like the implementation of smooth locomotion has become a lot better, and the controller you use for smooth locomotion is very
Right.
important as
Right.
well when it comes to joysticks and stuff
Depends if
like
you actually
that.
feel like you're moving or not, I suppose. Or if you're the one creating the movement, yeah.
We've got a new Walkabout mini golf map from the Walkabout mini golf guys, and it's a collaboration with Exploding Kittens.
Oh,
So we
okay.
have the Jules
Interesting.
Verne Journey to the Center of the Earth, and then we have a brand new Exploding Kittens Evil Lair, and the normally what you do is called a fox hunt, where you have to follow clues that basically tell you where to go to unlock a new club. But the entire clue like hunting system is written by the co-creator of Exploding Kittens this time, which I was like, oh, that's a really cool idea. So that's cool to see.
They're hidden exploding kittens. That's my
Yeah,
question.
Toss is one we have here. It's another climbing game. Um,
It's all climbing games.
there's a lot of monkey climbing games.
Yeah.
I thought this looked really fun. Like, if I'd saw this like years ago in VR, I would go, "Who the hell would play this?" I'd just be sick. But I feel like after playing stuff like Gorilla Tag, I'm much more like, "Oh, this looks really fun. I could probably handle this." Um, so yeah, this one looked pretty cool. I Expect You to Die 3. I love it. I Expect You to Die 1 and 2. I've talked about how these were some of the first I Expect You to Die demo in the Oculus store. One of the first VR games ever played. Absolutely adore this game. It is a James Bond style escape room. Always tons and tons of fun. Love these guys. Great VR games. Shout out to Shell Games. Also, their recent Among Us VR game, really good. So, yeah, always check out these guys' games. Genotype coming at the end of this year. I thought this one looked really interesting because it was like this idea of like this alien infestation, like sort of game that could be done really well, like a sort of like a alien, like isolation sort of vibes I was getting from it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Tin
Yeah, that could work well, yeah.
Hearts, which is like a weird artsy game, is now getting a VR version for some reason. It's like a highly recommended game. People
Interesting.
seem to like it, but it's getting a VR version now. So yeah. Next up we have developer Rogue Sun. Did they do anything else? Guildford Games Festival. They're not from Guildford, are they? Inside
The
Surrey.
the Surrey Games Festival.
There it is. Next up we have tennis on court. I was alluding to this. Tennis-based VR games. Here we go. They're coming, Tony. We've had table tennis. Now we need tennis in VR. I like the look of this one because it seems like you can have that full court
Oh
experience, but
god,
it
yes,
seems
this is
like
huge.
no, but they're also doing the like smaller court thing as well. Was that a different one I was thinking of? But it
That's the other game. It was like
yeah, okay. There's
the smaller
multiple
but in
like
the
tennis VR games now, so I'm probably getting
yeah.
confused between them.
So this is like
Yeah.
this looks giant full course but yeah, I think that could work quite well. Like that would be very immersive, like, especially in the
We then have
stadium.
Outer Hand again, Tony. I've been saying it. We're going to be getting more Gorilla Tag style movement
Yeah.
games. It's a platformer, but with Gorilla Tag style movement, and it looks really, really fun. I have been playing No More Rainbows, which just came out, which is a Gorilla Tag style platformer, and that's really good. So it seems like if we get more of these sort of games, they're going to be really, really fun. Looking forward to those. Barbaria, a first-person like hack and slash game. I thought this one looked really fun. Sort of reminded me of Gorn, but it had like a mix
yeah.
of building your own like obstacles and enemies and that sort of stuff, which was like a really cool idea. Inverse, a horror survival game. It seems like Dead by Daylight VR is what I'll say about this one. It's an asymmetric survival horror game. So you have one person playing as a monster in VR, and then 4 people playing as survivors in VR, which is like not something we've really seen before, which I think is a really good idea. I'm a huge fan of DBD, so the idea of being able to actually play as a monster in VR in like a asymmetric horror game, I think
My
is a
question
really
is,
cool one.
is it fun as a survivor?
In Dead by Daylight, yes.
Okay.
In this game, I have no idea.
Yeah, I
Gazless
just
is
always
coming out at the
think.
end of this year. I talked about this in the previous demo fest. I thought this
Oh
was a
yeah,
really
yeah.
cool, like Borderlands-y style, like roguelite moving platform shooter. Highly recommend checking that one out. Paint the Town Red VR. I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, I think Paint the Town Red is like a pixely brawler game that existed, but it's getting like a
Yeah.
VR version now. It looks
I
like
guess
it
this
could be
makes
pretty fun.
sense. Yeah, it makes sense being VR more than not, I would say actually.
Yeah.
Although I always find it a weird
We
game,
saw
but
this
yeah.
before, but we got some like actual gameplay of Power Wash Simulator VR. Here it is, guys. The next killer app for VR.
I'm gonna say is I can already imagine how it would be. Like, did we need? Yeah,
It
yeah.
looks like the full game as well, because from this trailer, I'm seeing like all of the maps. It seems like, and you're even getting triple nozzle on like I believe it's the train map. Triple nozzle is like one of the new advanced nozzles that got added for the full release. So it seems like
Right.
it's a full release. It seems like the
I'm
full
gonna.
game is in there.
I'm not surprised considering the simplicity of the concept.
Well, they released House Flipper VR, and it was like
Hmm.
a segmented portion of the game that was
I
like
think House
completely
Flipper
different.
is far more complicated than Power Wash Simulator.
They're kind of similar concepts, though, like the simulation
Yes, but
part.
I think the mechanics are far more complicated and there's a lot more you can do, and I can understand why that might be difficult to move all assets and all mechanics to VR and have it actually controllable.
Esquire 2 Stealth Operatives Mixed Reality Update. So this is taking the idea of like a Solid Snake like Metal Gear game, but it's letting you do it through mixed reality, so you can like walk around your house playing Metal Gear
Oh, okay,
through
what?
augmented reality. Yeah, just like oh, that's a really cool idea. Like especially with like the Quest 3 coming out, which is going to be a £500 mixed reality headset. I could see like feasibly people actually buying and playing this because you'll have an actual affordable mixed reality headset when
Yeah.
that comes out. So something maybe I'll check out if I get one of those.
How does it
The
map to? I have questions of how that works, but I think it's a cool concept.
The Burst is a first-person shooter action adventure game. Looks like a really fun, fluid
Oh
shooter.
god. Okay.
Might be
Very cool.
could make people be sick, but we'll have to
Yeah.
see. Lots of
It is
people have
fluid.
VR legs now, so make
And
for
they've
them.
got VR gorilla arms.
Retropolis 2, Never Say Goodbye. It's like a narrative adventure puzzle game. I played this demo like a couple of demo fests ago, and I thought it was like an interesting world, but the demo was so short, I could barely see what the game was about. But it seemed interesting from what I played, and it seems like they're making another game. But it's going to be like I think it's coming to all platforms as well, which is good to see. Dungeon Full Dive. It seems like a full like Dungeons and Dragons style game in VR.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So you're going to be able to like plan out a custom campaign and then play through it in VR,
Yeah, that's cool.
which is what's that game called? Demio.
Yeah, Damien, yeah.
That was very popular. There was very much just like a set map that
Yeah,
allows you to play
the
like
set maps. Yeah.
have like a D&D sort of like experience. But this is like a full
Ooh,
custom
yeah.
D&D experience. Like you can build like your own
Oh, you
campaign
can
and
build
play it in
character.
VR.
Okay, that's huge. You can
Yeah,
build like every race as well. That's huge.
yeah. So this actually
Oh,
looks like
older.
a really, really cool game. So I'm interested to see that. And then finally we have Grimlord, which I believe was one of the sponsors of the show, and it is a RPG game, which sort of reminds me a lot of Sword and Sorcery.
Yeah,
Looks a
I
lot
was
like
just
that.
about to say that.
Really good. There's currently a Humble Bundle based on this conference called the UploadVR Humble Bundle, and it's actually like a very good Humble Bundle for VR games, which I would recommend if you wanted to get into VR. Um, it's got like the new Saints Sinner games, the previous one, Pistol Whip, which is like one of the Killer App VR games, the new Green Hell VR game, one of the Warhammer VR games, Dragon Fist VR, Mask Maker. So yeah, good VR stuff. But overall, I thought the VR conference was kind of eh. There was some interesting stuff, but not really. Man, I
There's
think
one that there's like they're quite long, but only like a couple or a handful of interesting ones.
yeah. So let's talk about like not E3 quickly before we end, so we can try and
You want to do like a highlight recap?
yeah. So let's do highlights. So
Okay.
my highlights for not E3 2023 were Sonic Superstars, On Guard, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Star Wars Outlaws,
Mm-hmm.
Sulphur, Like a Dragon: Infinite Wealth, Fable, Starfield, Clockwork Revolution, Avowed, and Warhammer Space Marine 2. We got an announcement that it's going to be a full co-op campaign. So that's really cool to see. But yeah, those were the games that I was like, these are the ones that are really worth checking out and
Yeah.
look really interesting. Yeah, those are my highlights. So if you look up those trailers, you won't have to go through 500 trailers like I did. And yeah.
Or, I mean, technically, if you've gone to the end, if you didn't just skip to this part, you had to go through at least 100 trailers like you just did.
Yeah.
You could just skip to this part.
And you know what the most fucked up thing was like I cut down so much of the show
Yeah,
to
I
get to
know.
that point.
Yeah. I thought there was a lot of mediocre shit, in my opinion. And I get like gaming as a hobby is like kind of broad at this point. So it's probably kind of good, but I don't know. There's just some stuff I just thought, do we need to see
Yeah.
all of this? There could be some more curated, and it was
I don't
very
know.
long.
What do you think about like living in post E3? Like we were sort of living in like E3's cancelled, people are making their
Yeah,
own three, but it's like
yeah.
pretty much from now on, this is going to be this weird segmented E3 that's split all over the place in like varying qualities and times and stuff like that. What did you
The thing
think of
is
the
that
first not E3?
well, it's very much like the pseudo not E3. It's very much similar but longer this year.
Hmm.
I think the segmented stuff is fine, but only because as a website that collates it all together. Um, the thing is that the old E3 stuff was kind of maybe not segmented. It was easier to search for. I'd say. I do wonder
Yeah,
if we need a fine. Like we don't want to like
because there's
we don't
everything we
give it to
talked
Issa.
there's everything we talked about this week, and then there was of course last week we had
Yeah,
Warhammer, Sony,
yeah,
and Meta's VR stuff. Oh, I
yeah.
didn't.
I just
I
feel
didn't
like
even talk about Apple VR yet because I cut that off from the
oh
last
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Next week I'll talk about Apple
Next time,
VR.
next time. But yeah, I just feel like we need like a unified name for it, like the industry can agree on. Um, like a generic name. Like I just went like summer game showcase or something. Just
Well,
call
that's
it
what
that.
Jeff
And
was
then
trying to do. Like he was
yeah,
trying
I
to do
know.
the
I agree with
summer
Jeff.
games fest, And
Yeah,
like
his
we had
name is
like
the best.
shout out to E3 sorry, Games Recap IO for allowing me
Yeah,
to get all these trailers together and know when all the conferences were. And also
but
Steam this year did a summer spotlight where they put together all the conferences and you can basically click on
oh,
a
okay,
conference and it will show you like all of the games
all the games. Oh, okay,
store
that's
pages. So it'll have like the featured games from that conference and you can go straight to
okay. That's kind of cool.
their store page. So shout out to Steam as well for doing that.
That's really good. That's a good idea. But yeah, I just think it's like I just think you shouldn't have to use these platforms like before. My way of doing things was like just search for E3 and then the year, and that was
Yeah.
very easy to find stuff from that year's E3. And I do have a problem. It's making it less searchable, and I think we just need a
I
name
feel
for
like
this.
my
This
takeaways that I'm
time.
going to say but not follow next year is I feel like I should watch the big conferences and then not watch the rest.
Well,
Honestly,
can I suggest to you what I do? Is like don't watch it live at least. Just if you're gonna do the rest, because you can just skip through so much shit so much quicker.
I feel like the stuff the conferences that actually had the stuff that interested me this year were Xbox,
Yeah,
kind of Sony. I will watch
so I need a
Sony
couple.
Xbox,
I think you
Sony,
have to watch Sony. I think
Xbox,
so.
Sony, Summer Jeff Fest,
Yep,
and that was about it.
a little bit Ubisoft. We got like in other
But
places, right?
Ubisoft was announced in Xbox, and they had like
Yeah,
more gameplay in
exactly.
the Ubisoft conference. Like, yeah, I feel like next year, just watching Xbox, Sony, and
Devolver's
Summer
not
Jeff
too
Fest.
long.
I'm always going to watch Devolver, but that's more
Yeah,
just I want to see what crazy shit Devolver's doing for like the show,
the
less so
the
than the. I'm
Devolver
not watching it.
Cinematic
I'm not
Universe.
watching it for the trailers. I'm watching it for the
Yeah,
Devolver Cinematic Universe.
yeah, yeah.
More so, like I'm always going to watch the Devolver E3 show, but yeah.
And also, I always feel like even if you are watching for the trailers, it's not that long. It's like it's quite nice. There wasn't anything I
Like
cared about this year,
my
but
advice, if you wanted to watch E3 next year, would be watch Jeff Fest,
yeah,
Xbox, and Sony,
yeah.
and skip the rest. Pretty much, it's probably my advice. It's just so that like I went back and I tried to watch like a bunch of trailers for Wholesome Direct, and there was like nothing in there that interested me at all.
I think it's cool these sort of things exist. Like it
Like
is
I
nice, but
watched
like, yeah,
Summer
for
of
us,
Gaming,
it's
I
not.
watched Guerrilla
Yeah,
Collective, I watched Future Play, I watched Tribeca Games, I watched 4 hours of OTK, but
it's yeah that I did
holy,
not
there's
do. And
so many trailers.
all I'm gonna say is, last year I watched half of OTK live, and I was like, no, I'm not watching OTK stuff. I'm afraid it's not for me.
Yeah, I can get that. Yeah,
And then that was even and like that was like only like a couple of hours last year, like 4 hours. It's insane.
that's the end of the podcast. It's a brief 2.5 hours of E3 content. Check us out and everything in between podcasts is our handle on YouTube, twitch.tv/Scorn if you want to watch live, and Scorn2000 on Twitter. If you want to listen to the audio versions of the podcast, shows.acast.com/everything-in-between-podcast. Click on the links there. There will be links to Apple Podcast on Spotify if you want to listen on there, as well as being able to listen on a cast. And we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.